1. Apocalyptic dimension, beacon of hope. On the edge of the wilderness, in a crumbling hut at a human gathering place, a pale light pulsed across a makeshift screen. Ultraman inventory system, preparing. Liu Bei stared at the display, his voice trembling. This is the last hope for this world. He was in the annihilation dimension, a reality overrun by darkness and teetering on the brink of extinction. Humans, aliens, even monsters, all life faced annihilation. A month ago, Liu Bei had transmigrated here and joined one of the desperate human encampments. Conditions were dire. People lived hand to mouth, constantly afraid of discovery and attack. With their current strength, a single battle would leave few survivors. The only bright spot was that Liu Bei had just activated a system, the Ultraman inventory system. In short, it could project Ultraman videos he knew into other universes. According to the system, the worlds that received these projections were often also facing crises. After inhabitants watched the videos, they would generate hope value, and when enough hope value accumulated, Liu Bei could draw power from it. For this dying world, for every life clinging to survival, he breathed, and then controlled the system. Start projection. Far away, in other universes, people looked up. Pacific Rim, the test drive of Gypsy Danger had failed, nearly causing casualties. Pilots Raleigh and Mako stood in the command center and were being berated by General Pentecost. "General," Dr. Newton burst in white-faced, "look at the sky!" "What's wrong? A kaiju?" Pentecost demanded. They looked out the window and saw a giant screen suspended against the clouds. Ultraman inventory about to begin. "What is that? New alien tech?" someone muttered. Marvel Universe, Nick Fury's eyes went hard. "Motherfucker, are aliens attacking Earth again?" Captain America narrowed his eyes. "Ultraman? Never heard of it." Tony Stark, glass in hand, watched and asked Jarvis, "What the hell is that?" "Observing. Sir, it's a massive projection. I can't locate its source or comprehend the technology involved." "Just a projection, then. No immediate threat?" Black Widow said. "Jarvis judges no danger," Tony said, swirling his drink. "Then let's see what it wants." Fury hesitated about calling Captain Marvel, but anomalies kept appearing across worlds. Neon Genesis Evangelion, the DC Universe, Honkai Impact 3rd, Attack on Titan, countless beings in countless realities stared up at the sudden screen in the sky, curious and awed. Even universes with Ultramen saw it. Planet Jiran, Cosmos frowned. "Ultraman inventory, who made this screen?" "Unclear," came the reply. Droshin gave no orders. The projection poses no immediate threat. Justice stood beside him, equally puzzled. In the Tiga and New Generation universes, the same phenomenon unfolded. On the Land of Light, in the Ultraman training grounds, Zeta shouted, "Master, take this! Zestium beam!" Zero easily dodged. "Kid, you're 20,000 years too early to be my apprentice." Zeta's beam was interrupted as Zero blocked it with a punch. "As expected of Master, amazing!" Zeta wore a look of pure admiration, ignoring the taunt. Then both of them suddenly stiffened and looked up. A huge screen had appeared above the Land of Light. Ultraman inventory, about to begin. "Ultraman inventory?" someone cried. "Do we have some kind of event?" Zeta asked. "Don't be ridiculous. Hikari wouldn't be bored enough to set this up," Zero scoffed, but he was already flying toward the space garrison. "Master, wait for me!" Zeta followed at once. All across the Land of Light, Ultramen stopped and stared at the sky, wondering who had placed the screen. At the space garrison, familiar faces gathered. Father of Ultra, Mother of Ultra, Captain Zoffi, the First, Seven, Jack, the Ultra Brothers, Max, Leo, Astra, and even the usually retired King of Ultra stood at the front. Preparation complete. Please select the Ultraman video to project and set a theme for it. Back in the Annihilation dimension, Liu Bei did not hesitate. The first Ultraman work that sprang to mind from the first Ultraman universe, Ao Peng, was Leo. Ultraman Leo's memes and poignant moments were famous, and crucially, his homeworld had been destroyed, a resonance with Liu Bei's own situation. But if I want to make a deep impression on other worlds, I shouldn't start with a random fight, Liu Bei thought. I need to build up to it. He set a theme and confirmed the projection. On the Land of Light, the text on the screen shifted. A line of large characters appeared. Ultraman inventory. A strict teacher produces excellent disciples. What it takes to forge an Ultra warrior 100 times over. A strict teacher produces excellent disciples. Zoffi and Father of Ultra exchanged puzzled looks. Who was projecting such a title to the Land of Light? Still, if the screen was going to showcase the hardships of the older generation and teach the younger ones, that might be worthwhile. They watched with guarded expectation. The sky trembled. The text changed again. No one understands suffering better than I do. The lion's pupil shining in the sky. Leo. Leo? Someone asked. Master Leo. It's me? Leo was surprised to see himself named first in the inventory, but also a little proud. The title sounded like praise. Could it be about his mentorship of Zero? He allowed himself a small, pleased smile. Zeta, standing nearby, was visibly excited. It's Master Leo. I'm looking forward to this. The video began. The first thing that appeared on the screen was an Earth vehicle, a Jeep. Leo felt a strange jolt of foreboding. Then a human showed up in the Jeep, leaning on a cane, his face flushed with anger. He pointed the cane at a young man. Genotori, don't run! Don't run! Leo's expression froze. A strict teacher produces excellent disciples. But am I the strict teacher? The scene continued, unsettling and familiar at once. Note, in this book's timeline, the main Ultraman universe is set before Ultraman Galaxy Fight, The Absolute Conspiracy, and Ultraman Z TV, specifically before Princess Yulian was captured by Little Goldman. Timelines of other universes, like the D-Day and Tiga universes, will be adjusted as needed for the story's space-time framework. 2. Warriors Forged in Fire. The first one to be featured is Ultra Brother Leo. I've always liked him. Same here, even someone as powerful as Zero trained under him. If you had to pick a martial arts master in the Land of Light, Ultraman Leo would be the obvious choice. He's a revered senior, admired by many of the younger Ultras. Everyone knows Leo was Zero's teacher. Need his achievements be listed? Defeating Belial, saving the Land of Light, carrying its hopes across the universe, crushing Kaiser Belial and the Galaxy Empire, inheriting the power of Noah, his record is legendary. Young Ultras gossiped about his exploits like bedtime stories. A strict teacher producing outstanding students was the perfect summary of Leo and Zero. Having Leo open the feature would be a big draw. The Ultras leaned forward, eager for the video. But at the first frame showing a Jeep and two humans, puzzled murmurs spread. Huh? Wait, who are they? Humans? Is this Earth? Where's Senior Leo? Where's Zero? They knew humans existed and that many ties bound Ultras and humans, but these two people in the clip were unfamiliar. Zeta, oblivious to the stunned expression on Leo's face, clapped Zero on the shoulder and asked, Master, who are these two humans? Are they your hosts? Zero scratched the back of his head. He'd seen Moroboshi Dan's human form before, and the man behind the wheel looked exactly like Dan. For a moment, Zeta's face lit up. Then the other human. Could it be? Genotori, don't run! Don't run! An angry roar echoed across the Land of Light. The Ultras listened and felt a strange familiarity in the voice. That sounds like Senior 7. Isn't that Senior Leo? Where is he? Who is Genotori? A narrator filled them in. The young man being chased and hit by the Jeep? Genotori, that's Ultraman Leo's human host, and the driver knocking him around is Ultraman 7's human form, Moroboshi Dan. Of course, Zeta said cheerfully. When Ultraman Leo first came to Earth, he lacked combat experience and took a lot of defeats. Ultraman 7, injured and unable to transform, put him through harsh special training. Scenes played on the screen. On Black Tide Island, Leo repeatedly defeated by twin monsters and a magma alien. After 7's training, he executed a spinning flying kick, beat the monster, and the magma alien fled. Defeated by a Zurich alien, then after another round of 7's coaching, he triumphed. Repeated losses, relentless battles, the senior's strict instruction. On paper, it sounded inspiring. But the Ultras watched the footage and fell silent. Slam! Moroboshi Dan knocked Genotori to the ground with his staff. Slam! He slapped Genotori down with an Ultra slap. Slam! The clip showed Moroboshi Dan encountering an alien, then knocking Genotori out with the staff without a word, single-handedly fighting the foe. He even muttered, I'm saving you. Don't get in the way. Every Ultra in the Land of Light went quiet. Leo may have been inexperienced then, but Senior 7, did he really need to KO his comrade in a 2-on-1 fight? Not even Ultra Brother Jack resorts to that on patrol. Jack muttered, rubbing his nose as if some Ultra, was unfairly accusing him. I say that Staff 7's holding. Could it be the Ultra bracelet transformed? It's incredibly versatile. Zeta murmured, watching a montage of Dan whipping Genotori, tossing the staff, driving the jeep, launching darts, using telekinesis, crashing himself, picking up the staff, whipping Jen again. As the reel played on, it finally dawned why the program bore its title. Leo's human name was Gen Otori, but he had another name if you looked at the training footage. Strict. A strict teacher produces outstanding students, so that's what they'd meant. Rumors that Seven had once been chief instructor of the space garrison suddenly felt terrifying. The young Ultras exhaled. At least the current instructor was the gentle Mebius. Fortune smiled upon them. Incredible. 100 refinements is no exaggeration, someone murmured. Across other worlds, reactions varied. Captain America, watching on a different feed, nodded appreciatively at Leo, beaten but unbowed, rising stronger after training. Still, he couldn't help a rueful smile. That training method feels a bit much. Black Widow laughed. S-Shield instruction is child's play compared to that. On the Hyperion, Himeko glared at Kiana, who was snacking on chips. Kiana, did you see that? Act up and I'll train you like that. Huh? Aunt Himeko, no. Kiana dove behind May and stuck out her tongue. I told you not to call me Aunt. Fine, Aunt Himeko, she mocked. Back on the Land of Light, Seven coughed awkwardly and dropped his gaze while his Ultra brothers stared. After a beat, Zoffy cleared his throat and asked, Seven, what were you doing? Training, Seven said simply. Leo was green then. I was putting him through drills. Are you sure? Someone probed. I'm sure. Zero, who'd been quiet, finally spoke up, watching the stunned Leo with a tentative tone. You were so hard on me back on K-76. You weren't holding a grudge, were you? Leo reflexively started to nod, then shook his head. No, the harsh regimen you remember was arranged by the King of the Ultras. Your talent is exceptional. Coddling you would have been irresponsible. Is that so? Zero looked half convinced. A memory surfaced. Once, thrown into another dimension by Darklop Zero, he had fought exhausted against replica Ultra robots, barely surviving. Leo had come to his rescue and pummeled the Seven replica. At the time, Zero hadn't suspected anything amiss. Now, piecing things together, he wondered if some of Seven's roughness had been a kind of disguised payback. The more he thought of Seven in his youth, the more curious he became. He hoped the next profiles might show more of the old man. The big screen changed. The new title blinked into view. Land of Light Civilized Model, Leo, Babar, you. Babar, you. Laughter filled the command room. With no monster attacks at the moment, everyone's nerves, taut for so long, finally loosened. Moroboshi Dan's way of training Gen Otori was riotously entertaining to outsiders. Even General Pentecost couldn't help but smile. But as commander, he also noticed something else on the screen, Ultraman's combat stats. When the footage of Leo played, combat data scrolled alongside it. Ultraman Leo, 52 meters tall, 48,000 tons. Size and height variable. The alien Leo fought in his second battle, a Zarab alien, 54 meters, 20,000 tons. Even without considering beam weapons or techniques, those body metrics alone dwarfed the Jaegers and Kaiju of their world. For comparison, the largest known Category 3 Kaiju, Knifehead, though 90 meters tall, weighed only 2,700 tons. With that kind of physical disparity, Leo could crush the monsters of this world with a single punch. More important, Leo was a hand-to-hand combat master among the Ultras. He rarely relied on beams and preferred close quarters, which would greatly reduce the risk of monster blood contamination. That made him a perfect match for Jaeger pilots. If Ultraman Leo could help us, Pentecost allowed himself a flash of hope. His tactics wouldn't spread kaiju blood, and he could just toss carcasses into space. He forced himself to shake his head. It was only a recorded broadcast. It didn't mean Leo could actually interact with them. As a commander, he couldn't let himself indulge in childish wishes. There were still arrangements to make for the Gypsy danger. Still, an odd sensation flickered. A system notification blinked in the Annihilation dimension. Hope value received from Pacific Rim World. Hope value received from EVA World. Received from... Liu Bei felt a jolt of energy in the Annihilation dimension. As expected, beings from other worlds were finding hope in Ultraman. They all faced enemies of their own. For now, Pacific Rim's contribution was the largest, its hope bar the longest among the broadcasts, at 5%. The system's rules were clear. When hope reached 100%, something unexpected could happen. I remember Pacific Rim's monsters have highly toxic blood, Liu Bei mused. Jaeger pilots favor physical combat to avoid contamination. From that angle, choosing Leo first was excellent. He smiled. Leo was one of the Ultras who literally beat his enemies to death. But this was only the appetizer. Other worlds wouldn't give enough hope for free. Raise the intensity. Keep broadcasting. Land of Light. Civilization model. Leo. Civilization model? Senior Leo has that honor? That can't be right. I don't remember the Land of Light having this. Maybe it's an ancient honor we rookies don't know. Isn't our race one of the most civilized in the universe? Of course, we are the warriors of light. We've saved so many planets. In the space garrison, many Ultras puffed their chests and celebrated. Father of Ultra nodded with satisfaction. Civilization, humility, and gentleness was part of the Ultra spirit. It was good that the younger ones took pride in that. King of Ultra, however, stood silent beside him. He rarely showed emotion, but now he seemed to sigh softly. Master Leo is a civilization model too? Zeta blurted, awed. He'd thought such a title would go to a teacherly figure like Itis or a gentle healer like Mother of Ultra, not the battle-hardened Leo. That made him admire his master's master all the more. Zero touched his rabbit-like antennae in puzzlement. Leo and the word civilization did not match in his memory. He remembered harrowing training sessions under K-76's supervision and Leo's temper. Zero, you son of a bitch, stand up. Zero, you babar, can't even block this move. Do you think with that face you'll ever be a proper Ultra? Leo had always been strict. Some joked he'd been overly harsh on the youngsters. Zero suspected Leo might have shown him some special favor later because of that. Still, civilized wasn't the image Zero associated with this man. The silent Leo's eyes glinted for the first time. At last, the public execution of his old reputation was ending. Those dark years with Seven were turning a page. He deserved a flattering title. Civilization model. It sounded like praise. He felt quietly pleased. Then the feed shifted. On the huge screen in the sky, a voice boomed, furious, unmistakable. Babar, you son of a bitch! A roar echoed through every world watching. Father of Ultra? Mother of Ultra? The Ultras? The otherworldly audience. No one could believe what they'd just heard. Was this really the same Leo who'd been declared a civilization model? How could he open a public broadcast with that? King of Ultra only sighed, almost amused. He'd known such a line would slip out. If I heard correctly, that sounded like Master Leo's voice? Zeta asked, stunned. Every gaze in the space garrison swung to Leo. He stood motionless, his face blank and distant. Inside, his mind was in chaos. It's over. It's over. How embarrassing. Someone help me. Anyone, go steal something from Hikari's lab. Now. This is the perfect time. Babar, you son of a bitch, can you come steal the Ultra Key now? He wanted the ground to swallow him up. Babar. Babar. I heard this inventory video is being broadcast to other planets, even to other universes. The Elders of the Land of Light, Father of Ultra, Zoffy, the original Ultraman, and the other Ultra brothers all felt a jolt. What was this civilization coming to? They had expected wholesome publicity, a way to show Ultra spirit to younger generations and to strangers across worlds. Instead, the very first word blasted out was Babar. Father of Ultra clenched his fist. His usually calm face rippled with emotion. I never imagined Brother Leo behaving so undignified. Mebius replayed the curse in his head in disbelief. When he'd met Leo before, the man had seemed so serious, so earnest. He hadn't expected this from Brother Leo. A dark streak in his past? No, that couldn't be. Mebius shook the thought away, but he watched the screen with a guilty curiosity. He simply wanted to see the brother's youthful side. While the older generation fretted, the new generation Ultras and many others in the plaza seemed unconcerned, even gleeful. Who could resist? Leo, the man who came and went like a dragon. Many Ultras never get to speak with him in a lifetime. A legend across the Land of Light, the King of Combat, the right hand of the King of Ultra. Zero's master. To ordinary Ultras, he was steady, aloof, reliable, a proud, low-key senior who often spent long stretches away. Hearing him curse so loudly, it was irresistible. Kiana collapsed onto the floor laughing, clutching her stomach. I don't even know who Babar is, but Geno Tori cursing at him is hysterical. Kiana, mind your image. You just cleaned the floor, May said, exasperated but smiling despite herself. Hameko's tone was scornful, but her eyes glittered with curiosity. Who exactly was Babar? Across universes, D-Day, Gaia, Cosmos, and others, the human hosts of various Ultras couldn't help leaning in. Most had little direct contact with Leo, but they felt his presence all the same. The upright, taciturn warrior who acts more than he speaks. That reputation made the curse all the more bewildering. What could Babar possibly have done to make Leo snap? They watched the footage with rapt attention. Leo himself muttered inwardly, "What is this inventory video? They call me a civilized role model, then broadcast my 2 embarrassing moments. I'm a respected elder of the Land of Light. How will the kids see me tomorrow?" He imagined elementary Ultras mimicking him on the streets and winced. Then the video began, and Leo's stomach dropped. Static hummed across the speakers, a steady, distant beep. On the screen, the Mac team base. A nervous man filled the frame. Genotori, Leo's human host. "That's Astra. It's Babar disguised as Astra. The real Astra is here," Gen blurted, face pale with sweat. He seized the monitor from Moroboshi Dan's hand and pressed it to his ear, listening with frantic concentration. Beep, beep, beep. The regular signal brightened Gen's eyes. He shifted the monitor from one ear to the other as if checking, as if refusing to miss any detail. "Astra." His voice was small, then broke. Tears brimmed in his eyes. "Astra." Even stars who had never seen Leo cry were struck. Gen's expression, raw, desperate hope laced with disbelief, was contagious through the screen. Everyone watching stopped smiling. Who was Astra? Why would Babar pretend to be him? The beeping continued, and each tone seemed to electrify Gen. His lips trembled. With a ragged cry that split the silence, he shouted, "Astra! Astra!" The scene cut to a misty wilderness. Gen ran through the fog, yelling the name. Sweat and tears streaked his face. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand as he ran. Just as the viewers braced for a reunion, Gen skidded to a halt and looked up, teeth clenched. "Babar, you son of a bitch!" he spat. At that single furious curse, the ground trembled. A crimson giant burst upward from the earth and tore into the sky. Leo transformed. Countless viewers gasped. "Babar, you son of a bitch! Leo!" The roar ripped through the heavens and hung there, echoing. The same words that had moments before sent half the audience into laughter now silenced viewers across countless worlds. On the Hyperion, even usually unfazed Kiana watched the screen with a blank expression. In the Pacific Rim, Jaeger pilots tensed instinctively when the giant appeared. In the Marvel Universe, Thor clenched his fists and murmured, "That tone, that look, I think I understand." And on the Land of Light, every Ultraman stared at the broadcast with shock. Some of the younger warriors felt sudden shame for ever having laughed at Leo's temper. They didn't have the full story, no one in those other universes did, but the older Ultra Brothers knew. Zophi, Ultraman, the first, Seven, Jack, and Ace had been there. They were witnesses. Seven, who had just had his own dark history exposed, wore a solemn expression. "Astra," he said quietly, "he's Leo's only family." Zophi added, voice thick with feeling, "If the king hadn't arrived when he did, the consequences would have been unimaginable." Ace, nearby, paled as memories resurfaced, shame and lingering fear visible in his face. Hundreds of Ultraman in the plaza watched the screen, hungry for answers. What had Babar, the Babelian who spread chaos across the cosmos, done to make Instructor Leo lose himself like this? What had he done to Astra? In the space garrison, Zero, who'd intended to mock his master, stood silent. Astra was a member of the Ultra Brothers, a direct senior to him, and Leo's only younger brother. On planet L77, there had been only the two of them left. Zero felt the pull of curiosity and dread. He stole a glance at Leo. Leo, who had been prickly and embarrassed earlier, sat unusually quiet now. He watched the footage with a look that was neither anger toward the camera nor embarrassment over his past. It was dread. The name Astra brought a sharp ache to him, old fear that flared anew every time he remembered. Not a fear of Babar itself, but a terror of losing the only family left in the universe. He clenched his fists, his golden eyes locked on the screen. The footage rolled back to the past. Genotori had transformed into Ultraman Leo and flown across the void, calling Astra's name as he raced through the stars. He crossed untold distances until, on a frozen world, he found Astra encased in ice, bound by the Babelian. Leo sank his hands into his chest and unleashed red high thermal energy, melting the prison. Body beam, fire and heat streaming from his form, thawed the block until Astra's eyes blinked open. They looked at each other, the two brothers separated by so much, finally reunited. "Brother Leo! Astra, are you all right?" They fell into each other's arms. Astra gripped Leo's right hand with desperate relief. "I'm okay now." A pre-recorded narration from Liu Bei filled in the rest. Astra was Leo's younger brother, the only other survivor of planet L77. Their world had been destroyed by the magma alien. Parents, kin, and tribe had all perished. Only the princes, Leo and Astra, remained. The younger Ultramen and viewers from outside the Land of Light finally understood why Leo had been calling Astra's name so frantically. He had been running toward the only family left to him. Relief spread through the crowd watching the rescue, but a larger, darker question grew. Where was Babar in all this? The scene shifted. A massive, broken Ultra Key lay on the ground. Gasps rippled through the plaza. The Ultra Key? It's broken? How is that even possible? They learned that the Ultra Key controlled the Land of Light's orbit. Its power was catastrophic, enough to destroy a first-magnitude star with a single strike. Seeing it shattered sent cold down many spines. Then the footage showed Leo and Astra, hands clasped, combining their beams. Their energies braided together and reformed the key. The sight brought awed murmurs. They had the power to restore it. Hidden nearby, enraged at the failure of his trap, the Babelian, Babar, grew monstrous and attacked. Mac, under Moriboshi Dan's command, launched a counterattack to aid the Ultras. In the ensuing chaos, Leo snarled at Astra, "Get to Ultra Star!" Astra launched skyward, but Babar's wrist armor shot out a chain, wrapped around him, and slammed him down. "Astra!" Leo's fury broke loose. He leapt between Babar and his brother, blocking the grab and stealing space for Astra to make his escape. A brutal struggle followed. Babar lashed with chains, but Leo's skill made him hard to pin. The two locked in a violent test of strength. Sparks and metal rang. One sharp crack split the air as Leo used the chain to defend himself, snapping it clean in two. He poured his anger into a storm of blows, punches and kicks, and everything in him seemed to burn with a single mission: protect Astra at all costs. Astra's Ultra signature flared in the sky. He had made it aboard the Ultra Star. Relieved, Leo gathered himself and struck the final blow. Crimson energy wrapped his right foot, Leo kick, slamming into Babar's chest. The impact detonated like thunder. The Babelian exploded and was utterly destroyed. But the climax wasn't over. A titanic planet loomed toward Earth, its oppressive presence promising apocalypse. As it closed in, the Ultrastar performed a dazzling drift and skimmed past Earth, the two bodies narrowly avoiding annihilation, and then the feed froze. On the frozen frame, Leo's face, all raw emotion, was captured mid-roar. Words bled across the screen. "Babar, you son of a bitch!" Across universes, audiences blinked at the image, stunned into silence. 6 true lion eyes. "No? That's it? I still don't get it. That's it? What did Babar do before? Show it. Why no replay, you son of a..." To leave me in suspense at the best part, what kind of bastard posts a video like this? Countless viewers, laughing and cursing, greeted Liu Bei's decision to pause at that moment. It cut off at the climax and was over. Across universes, people stuck to the screen and cursed Babelian by name. There were so many unanswered questions. Where did the Ultra Key come from? How did it break? Why was Astra frozen? What had Babelian actually done? The clip ended there? "Babar, you bastard! It's all your fault." Land of Light. A crowd of new generation Ultra warriors clamored in the square. Each new voice seemed to call him a son of a bitch. From now on, Babelian would be infamous across realities. Every time they saw him, "son of a bitch" would be the first thing out of their mouths. Father of Ultra sighed, looking at the firebrand young Ultras. "These kids, it won't be easy to correct them quickly." Zoffi said it lightly, though inside he wanted to drag Leo over and give him a sound thrashing. This had raised a new bar for civilized. Not just Leo. Other civilizations would now know the Ultramen as a civilized race. Babelian started it all. "You really deserve to die." Don't be so pessimistic. The operator behind this video is clearly trying to get our attention. "He's using this kind of plot to hook us," the first Ultraman said calmly. Judging by the reaction, he succeeded. "The king hasn't stated his position yet. Let's wait and see what the other side's aim is." The Ultra brothers all nodded. They weren't truly angry. They all understood the well of hatred between Leo and Babelian. If their brother had been framed, trapped, and almost killed, they would lose their temper too. These things had happened before. Several elders felt a cold premonition. The first-ranking video had singled out Leo. Who would be next? As the first clip ended and righteous indignation swelled in countless worlds, the big screen went blank. Then a line of powerful characters appeared. The Wandering Prince, the man who lost his homeland, the Golden Lion's eyes. A surge of roaring lion cries erupted. Viewers from every world, whether laughing or embarrassed, fell silent, awed by the roar. Leo looked up, his face mapped by suffering and memory, but beneath it all, a quiet pride. This sound, Kiana munching potato chips, froze. Raiden May pressed a hand to her chest, sadness in her eyes. The video resumed. This time, Liu Bei omitted the comic meme montage. Instead, it showed scene after scene. He was not born a king. Like everyone else, he was once a green warrior. But unlike most, Leo's hardships exceeded imagination. His home was destroyed, his parents, kin, an entire people wiped out in an instant. His only surviving brother was taken by the enemy, his fate unknown. The image shifted, Leo as Geno Tori, wandering to Earth. In the Black Tide Island battle, Ultraman 7 was besieged and gravely wounded. At the critical moment, Leo stepped in and saved him. He then joined Mac and, under Seven's guidance, swore to protect his second home, Earth. The footage moved to Geno Tori, being trained by Dan Moribashi. Where the earlier mockery had called it strict teacher produces excellent students, no one laughed now. Viewers from many worlds were drawn to the bruises and sweat on his body. He bore pain, rose again and again, pushed his body without restraint, trained until every muscle ached. Even when lacerated and broken, he kept going, to make himself strong enough to repel the enemies that attacked Earth. Leo was not a native of the Land of Light. Though he had fighting talent, he lacked real combat experience, his energy control was unstable, and his beam techniques were poor. Seven's relentless training forged those weaknesses into strength. Powerful foes struck time and again. He fought, failed, stood up, and refused to complain. He did not shed tears. Eventually, he became a full Ultraman, a member of the Ultra Brothers, and a recognized king of combat in the Land of Light, the legendary lion hero. This inventory ends here. The second video will be released irregularly. Light answers all who call upon it, even across the universe. If you wish, it will surely respond. The video ended. On the plains of the Land of Light, the Ultramen remained motionless, replaying the images in their minds. Compared to the young Leo in those clips, this new generation could be called greenhouse flowers. Becoming a warrior of light able to join the Space Garrison and the Ultra Brothers had required extraordinary pasts. Even among the Ultra Brothers, few truly understood him. Viewers everywhere were quiet. Zero opened his mouth, but Leo shook his head and gave him a look of relief. Ultraman Leo. Loki, the elusive god of mischief in the Marvel Universe, murmured the name, flitting back to the memory of Leo searching for Astra, and to a certain hammer-wielding oaf. In the Triga universe, Kengo Manaka held the bandage to his wound, staring at his own sparklance. Compared to Senior Leo's trials, his own hardships seemed trifling. He straightened, made a quiet resolution, and headed for the training room. Geno Tori's scars from Dan's cane had not stopped him from training. Kengo would not rest because he was hurt. I am Triga Ultraman, an embodiment of light. I will protect everyone, even at the cost of my life. Back in the Annihilation dimension, Liu Bei exhaled slowly. He opened the inventory system and blinked in surprise. Hope values across multiple universes were rising. Even though the video had finished, viewers would not forget Leo, the Lion King. The most astonishing spike came from the Pacific Rim world. 70%, 75%, 85%, 87%. So fast. Liu Bei compared it with other realms. Most were only in the single digits. Only the Pacific Rim universe was about to break 90%. Something was clearly different there. System. Check status of the Pacific Rim world. A screen appeared, showing that world's condition. Liu Bei stared, his heart thudding. How could this be? Chapter 7. The World Line of the Anomaly. In the Pacific Rim movie, there had been two major crises, the Hong Kong defense battle and the wormhole destruction operation. During the HK defense, two of the largest Category 4 kaiju, Leatherback and Otachi, had attacked. 4 Jaegers had taken part. Crimson Typhoon and Cherno Alpha were destroyed, Striker Eureka was knocked out by an EMP, and only the nuclear-powered Gipsy Danger remained to secure a desperate victory. That was what Liu Bei's memory held. But the scene the system showed him now was completely different. There were 4 kaiju attacking, 4 Category 4 beasts. Leatherback and Otachi were there, but also Virus and Abomination. The Jaegers fought with everything they had and only managed to take down Abomination. 2 Jaegers were destroyed, 1 was paralyzed, and only Gypsy Danger remained. With the army's help, it retreated into the ruined city, fighting 3 kaiju at once, withdrawing while battling, barely holding on. It didn't look like it would last much longer. Why was this happening? The thought flashed through Liu Bei's mind just as the system's voice echoed in his head. Development in other universes may not match the host's memory. Due to the invasion of the Great Ruler of Demise, other universes are also affected. The enemy's power may be greater than expected. The name struck him like a blow. Great Ruler of Demise. The culprit behind this universe's destruction. The name Annihilation Dimension came from that entity. Humans, aliens, kaiju, every life form had fought desperately and yet been pushed back. The Great Ruler of Demise was like a composite of Emperor Belial, the Dark Space Great Emperor Alien Emperor, and the Gua brothers, an overwhelming force. The system spoke again. Pacific Rim World, hope value reached 100%. Does the host respond and go to the rescue as Ultraman Leo? Upon successful completion of the mission, you will gain the ability to transform into and summon Ultraman Leo, and you will form a bond with the Pacific Rim world. There was no need to think. The situation was urgent. If he could gain Leo's power, he might not only deal with the Great Ruler of Demise, but at least protect the place where he and the others gathered. Liu Bei answered immediately. A ring appeared on his hand, the Leo ring, Genotori's transformation ring. Liu Bei crossed his arms over his chest, struck a powerful karate stance, and called Leo's name inwardly. Leo, Buzz, his body dissolved into light. Land of Light. The space garrison. A pensive Leo felt the pull. Master, what is it? Zero asked, still stunned by the strange video he had seen and hailing Leo with an honorific. Someone is calling me from a distant universe. Beyond the universe? Murmured the Ultras, surprised. Leo had been the first to appear in that footage, and now he was sensing a call. There must be a connection. The other party bears no ill will, Leo said. I can feel that he, or rather they, yearn for light. Go, Leo. The King of Ultra, who had been silent until now, spoke with a steadiness that cut through the quiet. Protecting humanity and Earth is our mission as warriors of light. The Ultra Brothers, Zero, and the others all nodded. They had encountered similar calls from distant reaches before, humanity's plea for light across the void. When the call came, the Ultras answered. Leo clenched his fists and accepted Liu Bei's summons. Back in the shattered city, humanity huddled among ruins. Despair had wrapped itself around every heart. The Jaegers had fallen. Shelters were meaningless. Courage and determination could not match the kaiju's overwhelming strength. Distant artillery and kaiju roars echoed in a terrible chorus. Cover the civilian evacuation, the commanders shouted. Target skin not penetrated. Repeat, target skin not penetrated, the artillery teams reported. Gypsy Danger is in a tough fight. Shelter 14514 is under attack. All units, fall back to the 3rd defense line. General Pentecost roared in frustration. The kaiju attacking were all Category 4. Anti-tank missiles that could punch through aircraft carrier armor couldn't scratch their hide. Don't retreat, buy time for the civilians, he bellowed, even as artillery thundered and the city burned. The memory of the video flashed in his mind. Another Earth under attack. It may not be the exact Earth he knew, but if warriors of light existed in the universe, if they could hear, then maybe, somehow, they would answer. He prayed, silently. Inside Gypsy Danger's cockpit, Raleigh and Mako's eyes were edged with despair. Even the modified Gypsy Danger, facing 3 Category 4 kaiju at once, was on the edge of collapse. They had held only because the other Jaegers had bought them time with their sacrifice and the human forces had fought desperately. Now, they were nearly out of ammunition and badly damaged. Mako, take the escape pod. I'll find a way to cover you, Raleigh said, forced calm, trying to steady his voice. You should have been dead long ago, Raleigh muttered, as if trying to reassure himself. Living this long is a bonus. You're still young. The Jaeger program needs you. Shut up! Mako shot him a cold look. She had been pulled from obscurity by Pentecost years ago and had given up a life to fight kaiju. Running meant abandoning everything they were protecting. There was nowhere to go. Behind them lay home. Humanity could not afford to retreat. Boom! Otachi seized a moment and lashed its massive tail toward Gypsy Danger's cockpit. Watch out! Raleigh and Mako threw up their hands to shield themselves, trying to avoid the same fate as Crimson Typhoon. But it was a feint. Otachi's strike had been a distraction. From the side, Leatherback swung a fist thicker than a truck and slammed it into Gypsy Danger's torso. Boom! The Jaeger tore through a nearby high-rise and fell uncontrollably toward the ground. Everyone watched in horror as the wrecked machine plunged. In the chaos, the cry of a lost little boy cut through the din. "Ultraman! Ultraman Leo!" The child's desperate plea rippled through the crowd. The humans remembered the last line of the video. If you wish for it, you will receive a strong response. More voices joined the boy's call. The people who could not fight, the soldiers who were bleeding, the shattered survivors, every voice rose in a single aching hope. Please, Warrior of Light, Ultraman, hear us. Profession, rank, and station fell away. Gunfire and flesh and steel mattered nothing against the kaiju's might, but their will was not meaningless. That unified cry, humanity's hope concentrated into one longing, coalesced into an answer. Ultraman. Then a miracle happened. At the center of the battlefield, with Gypsy Danger pinned and a gigantic claw plunging toward its cockpit, a red current of light descended from the sky with a crackling electric hum. Buzz. The light wrapped around Gypsy Danger like a shield. Leatherback's claw slammed into it and was stopped dead. For a moment the world seemed to hold its breath, as if a galaxy had come down to stand on Earth. From the dazzling light, a human-shaped figure began to dissolve into being. A crimson body with silver-white shoulder armor, a crest that spread like hawk wings, and fierce, diamond-shaped eyes like a lion's. A lion's roar split the air. The red giant rose, immense, resolute, a mountain of living light, standing between the three kaiju and the ruined city. Mako, trapped in the cockpit and staring up through shattered glass, felt something like awe well up inside her. The sight was as if, for a child, a general had climbed into a Jaeger for the first time. She could only whisper the name that surged from everyone's lips. Ultraman Leo. 8. First battle Liu Bei. No, Ultraman Leo. The man and Ultraman had become one. This is what it feels like to be Ultraman. Incredible. He was overwhelmed by the unprecedented, wonderful sensation. Don't get distracted. Focus on the fight, Leo's stern voice echoed in his mind. Yes! Leatherback, which had just smashed into a red column of light, still hadn't realized what had happened. Having already defeated Cherno Alpha and incapacitated Striker Eureka, it was arrogant, certain of victory. It pulled back its fist and lunged with both claws. The immense force that could tear through steel did nothing to that red light. Before Leatherback could understand, a red, oppressive shadow, like a mountain pressing down, crashed into its chin. Boom, as if struck by a meteor, Leatherback, one of the largest and toughest monsters, was sent flying into the sky. A wind wave burst outward like a storm, whipping up a dust cloud that snuffed the burning flames in the city and scattered the black smoke. Only when Leatherback tumbled high into the sky could the other monsters and the human onlookers finally see clearly. It was a fist. Ultraman Leo had taken it down with a single punch. Without appearing to strain, Leo shot into the sky and caught Leatherback mid-flight. He didn't finish the monster, opponent already dead. Good thing I held back at the last moment, or it would have affected the nearby civilians, Liu Bei thought, relieved. The Pacific Rim world's monsters, engineered by alien technology, were terrifying to the humans of that world. But to Ultraman, even a boy still in Ultraman Elementary could handle them. The differences in physiology and strength were simply too great. The only advantage the monsters and Jaegers had was size. Some were taller than a normal Ultraman. That was it. This was Liu Bei's first transformation. He was still inexperienced. At the end of his punch, he'd intentionally opened his fist to an open palm, preventing Leatherback from exploding into a spray of gore. Otherwise, the city's streets would have been uninhabitable. Ultraman Leo has taken to the sky, too fast for the naked eye. He stopped. He caught Leatherback. The massive carcass returned to the ground with surprising stability. Leo set Leatherback's corpse down, then stood facing the two remaining monsters. Otachi let out a shocked cry, extending its terrifying blue tongue-like appendage from its maw, highly corrosive acid, the same attack that had crippled Cherno Alpha. Liu Bei, who'd seen Pacific Rim, anticipated it. Before Otachi could even spit, he brought his hand down hard on its head. Leo palm chop. Chi! The unstoppable force slammed Otachi's head into its chest. Boom! The ground seemed to dip. Even bystanders far from the center staggered. Transformation time extended by 2 minutes. 30 seconds have passed. Good heavens, so short? That's 40 seconds less than Geno Tori's time, someone muttered. But the time was more than enough. Liu Bei didn't dodge Virus's follow-up slash. Instead, he lowered his body slightly and let the last level 4 monster cut at his back. Clang! Metal rang as Virus's giant blade struck Leo's shoulder armor. No penetration. Leo raised the shoulder to parry, then spun and threw a simple, unadorned straight punch. Thud! Virus was dead in an instant. 35 seconds after Liu Bei's arrival, all 3 level 4 monsters in the Pacific Rim world lay annihilated, and he had held back to avoid contaminating the city with monster blood. Battle ended. Pacific Rim world space-time anchor established. Host can now communicate with humans in this world and conduct small-scale exchange of materials and technology. When humans in this world wish, the host can descend in Leo's form. As strength increases, the duration of stay will be extended. Liu Bei grinned. He still had about a minute left. Might as well finish the job. Senior Leo, come with me. Leo brought his hands together, and a blue-white beam shot from the color timer on his chest up to the forehead light. Movement ray. One of the dead level 4 monsters shrank to the size of a pinky finger and materialized in his palm. He left the other 2 for the humans to handle. They were experienced and would know what to do. Leo flew upward, not into space but down toward the Challenger Deep, the location of the alien invader's wormhole. In the movie, Gypsy Danger had used the corpse of a level 5 monster, Slattern, to cross the wormhole and detonate a nuclear bomb, destroying the portal. Ultraman could open wormholes and traverse galaxies, but crossing worlds was uncertain. He brought a corpse just in case. Under the cover of the monster's body, the dark blue wormhole showed no anomalies. Leo slipped through and arrived at the invader's outpost. The bewildered precursors gaped at the sudden red giant as if breath had left them. Weapons and monsters pounced at once. Leo raised his right hand and formed an opening pose. Light condensed at his fingertips into a fireball-like sphere, Leo's signature energy sphere. Shoo! The red orb crushed several monsters and obliterated the entire outpost, wormhole, and equipment like an annihilating force. The precursor commander stared in disbelief. There were piles of weapons and gear here. The explosion should have gutted anything in its blast radius. Who would have expected Leo's body to dissolve into points of light and slowly fade at that moment? Transformation time ended, returning to Annihilation Dimension. Liu Bei smiled at the precursor who stared back, then gave the Ultraman nod before dissipating. The last things the commander muttered were unintelligible gibberish. If it could be translated roughly, it would be something like, "Babar, you dog-faced idiot. The universe you're in is too far from the land of light. Even with the King of Ultra's cloak, I cannot sense it." In the transformation chamber, Leo and Liu Bei stood facing one another. After Liu Bei finished describing his world, Leo's expression grew grave. "The Annihilation Dimension. I'll report this to the space garrison when I return." The great ruler of Demise had not only destroyed that dimension, his armies were spilling into others. It was a repeat of Kaiser Belial's crimes, a threat they could not ignore. "Thank you, Senior Leo," Liu Bei said with a bow. "It's nothing. It's my duty." Leo patted Liu Bei's shoulder. "I'll leave part of my light with you. It will help you in a crisis. Since you can summon me, I don't think this will be the last time we meet. Farewell." "Farewell!" Liu Bei watched his childhood hero dissolve into a strand of light and go. Suddenly he remembered something and called after him, "Oh, Senior Leo, I left an Easter egg for you. Be sure to watch it when you get back." Leo, already slipping through space-time, heard the word Easter egg faintly and blinked in puzzlement. System notification. You have obtained the light bestowed by Leo. Through it, you can temporarily transform into Leo. Please note, any damage sustained during the transformation will be 100% reflected on the human host. As the host continues to fight, experience and strength will increase. Transformation duration and abilities will gradually improve. Although this power is precious, it fundamentally belongs to Leo. The host's own light remains very weak. By continuously obtaining the light of Ultra Warriors, the host will grow and eventually attain their true form. In his room, Liu Bei let out a long breath. The first mission had succeeded. He opened the inventory system and pulled up the Pacific Rim world feed. Humans were doing post-war cleanup, search and rescue, clearing debris. The precursor wormhole in the Pacific had been destroyed. For now, there'd be no more monster incursions. Even if the wormhole reopened later, Liu Bei could respond and, if necessary, transform into Leo to help. No immediate danger. The system interface shifted and presented two options: communication, material transfer. Their functions were obvious, the first for talking to beings in other worlds, the second for transferring goods here. Liu Bei clicked communication. Pacific Rim World. General Pentecost had just stepped out of a briefing at the temporary command center, still trying to process the sudden roller coaster of the previous day. Ultraman Leo had answered their summons. He'd routed the monsters and destroyed the precursor wormhole. The world hailed him as a savior. In some places, cults had already formed around the name Leo. Pentecost reached for his coffee when a screen in the command center ignited with an incoming transmission. The officers nearby tensed. Jaeger pilots took defensive stances. "Everyone, don't be alarmed. I mean no harm." A line of text appeared, followed by a live voice. "Who are you?" the general asked. "Time is short. Please trust me." Before Pentecost could respond with a demand for proof, the screen bathed the room in a warm red radiance, familiar, comforting, and undeniably powerful. Everyone who had seen an Ultraman descend knew that light. Mako cried out, "Ultraman Leo." "To be precise, I'm not Leo. I'm a survivor in a worse situation than you," Liu Bei said plainly. He kept the inventory system and his ability to transform secret for now, instead outlining the dire conditions of his camp and pleading for material support. Despite their questions, the general and his staff mobilized supplies. "We'll get what we can to you," Pentecost said. As the call ended, Mako asked eagerly, "Will Ultraman Leo still come to our world?" "He will," Liu Bei answered, smiling at the Jaeger pilot's idol worship. The connection cut. Liu Bei expected the supplies to arrive right away, but the system responded. It would take hours. Preparing and organizing aid required time, and, more importantly, the transfer had to be routed to a safe drop location. "I need to choose a suitable transfer location. Safety is the primary consideration. Please understand." Liu Bei nodded. Caution was wise. If goods appeared and the enemy discovered them immediately, it could cost lives. Some scavenging teams from his camp were heading out soon. A rendezvous along their route made sense. He also noticed something else. The system's messages and manner often felt less like a sterile AI and more like an entity with a voice, I. He made a mental note but didn't have time to investigate. For now, everyone was on the same side. Fighting the great ruler of demise came first. Liu Bei opened the inventory system and began to broadcast the Easter egg video. TPC Far East Base, Tiga Universe. The base was full of the usual noisy banter. "What? What about the rest? I want to see the rest." Someone shouted at the screen. "Ha! So Ultraman says stuff like, 'Damn idiot too?' I thought they only roared." Shinjo and Hori howled with laughter, trying out mock curses they planned to hurl at the next kaiju. Nearby, Rina leaned in curiously. "Do you think Ultraman Tiga will be in the inventory? I'm so excited." Daigo flushed at the thought of being included, equal parts embarrassed and secretly pleased. Before he could think further, Captain Aruma drew everyone's attention. "Look, another Easter egg video." On the sky screen, a single title line blinked into view. Ultraman Leo Inventory, Easter Egg Chapter 1. Not just the Tiga universe, worlds across the broadcast range all saw the same thing. What was this Easter egg about? A plug-in for Leo's civilization model? Or a hidden archive left by him? Curiosity rippled through the audiences everywhere. Land of Light. "Leo, you're back, brother." Leo returned to the security force, surrounded by fellow Ultra Warriors. After briefing them on the Annihilation dimension, the Ultras began planning an investigation. Then someone pointed up. Taro, grinning, teased, "Leo, what else are you hiding from us?" "What?" Leo asked, confused. He followed Taro's gesture to the sky. There the same caption displayed, Ultraman Leo, Civilization Model Easter Egg Chapter 1. Leo scowled. You brat, it's still me? And it's only chapter 1? Does that mean there'll be a chapter 2? He imagined giving Liu Bei a good kick for the prank. Another line of on-screen text followed. Land of Light Civilization Model Representative Number 2. Representative Number 2? Not Leo? He breathed a weary sigh as the other Ultras exchanged puzzled looks. Then, as if on cue, a furious roar rolled across the Land of Light, an indignant, high-volume bellow that sounded suspiciously like a single petulant word. Taro barked, "Huh? You bastard!" Ultra Warriors, viewers from other worlds, bastard again? P.S. Due to plot needs, the DD universe will have some adjustments to its timeline. It's a different time and space anyway, and these changes won't affect the main storyline or the development of the Land of Light universe. Reasonable enough, right? 10. Ultraman Easter Egg. Ultraman. Holy crap! Taro's heart dropped when that roar cut through the plaza. He hadn't expected this Easter egg to be about him. Me, the protagonist? Father? Is something wrong? Taiga, standing beside him, hadn't noticed anything. When Taro blurted out, he rubbed the back of his head, confused. Do you recognize that voice? Not just recognize, Taro felt it in his bones. That sounds like your voice, someone said. Wait, why are you cursing? You son of a bitch? Father of Ultra and Mother of Ultra exchanged bewildered glances. Taro felt his face burn. His reputation on the Land of Light was impeccable. Crown Prince, member of the Ultra Brothers, chief instructor of the Space Garrison. Titles that usually brought pride only made him red with embarrassment now. Below the security force, countless young Ultra Warriors stood in the plaza. They all knew him as their chief instructor. And there were viewers from other universes watching. He was being publicly humiliated. Could it be that swearing, "You son of a bitch," was an important part of Ultra culture? Someone wondered. It doesn't seem likely, another answered. Then why do both Taro and Leo, members of the Ultra Brothers, use that word? Someone else asked. Lively chatter broke out among the young Ultras. It felt more like a festival than a solemn screening. Across the crowd, Kiana held May, laughing so hard she wiped tears. So this is how Ultramen are. Ha ha. Next time I meet a Honkai beast, I'm going to. Going to what? Himeko glared. Also going to. Kiana chuckled awkwardly. Fight bravely like Leo. That's more like it. Himeko tried to be stern, but she was just as curious. Who was Taro cursing? She wanted to know. In the Tiga universe, Shinjo and Hori were rolling on the ground laughing. You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. So this is how Ultramen swear. Is this an Ultra tradition? If Daigo could speak, would he do the same? Daigo, standing nearby, began to doubt everything. This was his first time meeting other Ultramen. He wanted to learn from senior comrades and absorb combat experience. Instead of dignity and composure, most of the clips were unconventional. Only one thought remained. Do Ultramen have to shout, "You son of a bitch," to pump themselves up? Maybe it increases fighting power. Daigo eyed the next clip, mentally rehearsing his line for the next battle. No, not just rehearse. He must shout it, pointing at the enemy. You son of a bitch. As Taro's roar faded on the screen, the footage cut to Earth, a seaside dock, and a yacht bobbing on the water. A young man scanning the deck caught the camera's eye. Ultraman. Holy crap, Ace squinted. Hey, wasn't that his human host, Hokuto Seiji? The name Ace even popped up beside him. Confusion rippled through the plaza. If that voice was Taro's, why was the footage focused on Ace? The scene shifted. A handsome young man in a pink short-sleeved shirt appeared. Higashi Kotaro. Kotaro Higashi's human form. He shouted at Hokuto, "Hey, Hokuto Seiji, that anchor won't break so easily." Hokuto replied casually, "What are you trying to prove?" Kotaro, "You should know. How can a boat fly, huh?" Hokuto ignored him, then noticed something odd along the boat's side. "Right here. At high speed, that'll scorch." He turned to Kotaro. "Hey, this boat really flew." "Huh? You son of a bitch!" Kotaro's righteous expression and the comic "huh" sent many viewers into instant amusement. Why curse someone out of nowhere? Then, to everyone's surprise, Kotaro launched himself at Hokuto, running so fast he seemed to fly. The Ultra Warriors and the audiences from other universes watched, riveted. Ace looked at Taro with a half-smile. Taro pressed a hand to his forehead and groaned. "Father, you actually cursed at Uncle Ace." Taiga felt his image of his grandfather crumble a little. "No, Taiga, listen." "Listen to what? There's nothing to explain." Father of Ultra pulled his adored grandson closer, worried that this rebellious son might set a bad example. "You all listen to my explanation." Taro was near tears. It was a misunderstanding. He hadn't even been to Earth yet at the time of this clip. The man on screen looked exactly like Kotaro Higashi, but Taro hadn't fused with Kotaro then. It wasn't him. How could he have inexplicably cursed a brother like Ace? He felt utterly wronged. Mother of Ultra reached over to comfort Taiga. "It's okay," she said gently. "You were impulsive when you were young too. Just don't let Taiga copy that. He's always looked up to you." "Mom, that really wasn't me." Taro seethed inwardly. Who released this video? An Easter egg that was supposed to spotlight Leo's civilization had somehow made him the star. "Maybe you just had a burst of anger," Taiga offered softly. "Cursing once to vent isn't a big deal." But the next few seconds of footage left Taiga speechless and sent Taro into outright panic. The screen showed Kotaro grinding his teeth, leaping from the dock and screaming as he charged at Hokuto. "Huh, you son of a bitch! Are you trying to make fun of me? You brat! You scoundrel!" He vaulted onto the yacht and kicked at Hokuto. "What do you think you're doing?" Hokuto shouted, barely dodging. Silence fell over the space garrison. Taiga stared at Taro, stunned. "Father, you actually laid hands on Uncle Ace?" P.S. This scene is from Ace Episode 20, Star of Youth. Interestingly, the man fighting Hokuto isn't actually Kotaro Higashi. The actor just happens to be the same, which sparked this meme. Both this character in Ace and Kotaro Higashi in Taro appear as sailors when they debut, which suggests the director was having a bit of fun. If you think about it carefully, it could even be Kotaro Higashi. 11. Ultraman's combo, Dog ZZ plus slap. 11. Ultraman's combo, Dog ZZ slap. Taiga looked at Ace with an apologetic expression, silently offering his regrets to his father. Ace, however, was ecstatic. He had almost forgotten about the old incident and never expected it to be shown now in front of so many viewers. "Ha ha! Taro, you stinky little brother, you finally got what's coming to you." Slap! The scene cut in an instant. Hokuto actually landed a heavy slap on Higashi Kotaro, an ultra slap. "Whoa! That force, that sound!" Ace froze. The other Ultramen watching the clip applauded in surprise. What looked like a lesson in Taro's civility had unexpectedly included Ace as well. As an Easter egg chapter, it did not disappoint. Higashi Kotaro took the hit, froze for a second, then angrily returned the slap with his other hand. He followed it with an Iron Mountain lean and shoved Hokuto away. The two quickly erupted into a brawl, punctuated with grunts and exclamations. "Hey! Ha! Oh! Ah!" This brotherly scuffle opened the eyes of audiences across the multiverse. Viewers gasped in unison. The warmth spread from world to world. So the Ultramen of the Land of Light weren't only civilized, they were fiercely brotherly too. Brotherly love and mutual respect displayed via Ultra Slap and Ultra Iron Mountain Lean. It was exhilarating. Civilized. Truly, very civilized. First Leo, then Taro and Ace. Who else will show up? The brothers have such a good relationship, they just fight it out. The younger Ultra Warriors watched with growing doubts about their own lives. Is the Ultra Slap part of the Ultra Legacy? It kind of is. Look at the Ultra Brothers. They all know the move. Got it. Next time I face a monster, I'll curse it out first, then give it a slap. Boom. The footage cut again. A huge, ferocious Choju spewed flame and thrashed as it emerged. The giant crab Choju, the king crab. Hokuto charged at it immediately. "Captain, the Choju's rampaging on land. Let's lure it into the water." "Damn it. If we lure it into the water, won't my boat be ruined?" Higashi Kotaro followed with wide, worried eyes. Hokuto stopped him cold. "Do you know which is more important? Life or the boat?" Kotaro put his hands on his hips, stuck out his chin, and declared proudly, "This boat is as important to me as my life. I'll protect it with everything I've got." "Bastard!" "Slap!" Hokuto cursed, then slapped him so hard the image doubled. Ace felt his heart skip a beat. The other Ultramen's gazes slid from Taro to young warriors, and audiences in other worlds instinctively covered their own faces, as if the earth-shattering slap had landed on them. This speed, this force, the Ultra Slap lived up to its name. It hurt just to watch it on screen. A proper Ultra Brawl. Whoosh! As the two argued, the Choju breathed flames that nearly engulfed them. Higashi Kotaro dodged, covered in ash, and spat through gritted teeth. Damn it! The essence of Ultra culture, perfectly displayed. Raw, masculine, old-school Showa vigor. Taro felt numb. He didn't care what his parents and brothers thought. They'd known his impulsive streak since he was young. But this video had millions of viewers. All the Ultramen of the Land of Light would see him as chief instructor, not to mention audiences from other worlds. Most importantly, he stole a quick guilty glance at Taiga, still standing there, recovering from shock. His good son looked shell-shocked. Taro understood, with a wry feeling in his chest, how Leo must have felt earlier. Tiga Universe. Shinjo and Hori were laughing until their sides hurt, cursing and snickering. "You bastard! Damn it!" Which made Lena laugh so hard she shook. Captain Iruma watched with a half-smile. After all this, the Ultramen seemed remarkably humanized. No wonder they protected Earth the way they did. Daigo, silent and composed in battle with his effortless good looks, might be like this in private too. Iruma decided she had to find a chance to talk with him. Daigo, lost in his own world, murmured, "So that's how it is. So that's how it is." He suddenly felt enlightened. This was the correct way to open Ultraman. These raw, foundational moves, the Ultra Slap and the curt curses, were the core skills an Ultra should master. Just as viewers laughed and winced at Taro and Ace's hilarious black history, the video froze on the moment Higashi Kotaro glared and spat, "Damn it." The screen shrank, the image receded, and the video's theme music returned. "Huh? You bastard!" Civilized role model Easter egg. Liu Bei's narration came at the perfect moment. "Already over? I haven't had enough." "Exactly. More. Bring it on." The next review video will be broadcast shortly. Hey, there's more. At the hint of a second narration, the audience buzzed with excitement. Who would be next? Tiga Universe. Daigo quietly took out a small notebook. Bad memories deserve better ink than a blunt pen. He wanted to record his predecessor's deeds, study them every day. Eva Universe. A blue and white-haired girl as clear and cold as ice sat alone on a balcony. Rei Ayanami, usually distant and silent, watched the sky screen quietly. Her red eyes at some point had acquired a faint sparkle. Space Garrison. Every named Ultraman crossed their fingers in private. Please not me. Please don't show my black history. Unyielding. The most resilient and toughest Ultra Warrior. The toughest Ultra Warrior? Across the multiverse, the first reaction was skepticism. The first review, Strict Teacher Produces Talented Students, had truly been strict. Leo's chapter started with "Babar, you son of a bitch." Then came Taro and Ace's brotherly brawl. Ultra Slap, Ultra Damn It, Ultra Bastard. It felt like the Ultra Spirit was being taught entirely in reverse. For a moment, all the viewers reached the same conclusion. This so-called toughest Ultra Warrior. Surely it couldn't be some cowardly fellow, could it? It must be. 12. No prize guessing game. Resilient and unyielding, Tiga Universe. Daigo read the words on the screen and felt the hairs at the back of his neck rise. It had to be sarcasm. After all, Leo and Taro's precedents were right there. How could any Ultra Warrior be a coward? He didn't know all the other Ultras, but his own record spoke for itself. Even when he first transformed into Tiga, he had faced the ancient monsters Golza and Melba, two at once, without a flicker of fear. In Power Type, he'd scared Golza off on the spot. In Sky Type, he'd utterly destroyed Melba. Anyone calling him a coward was simply making a baseless accusation. I want to see which spineless idiot they're talking about, he thought, eyes narrowing. Then his own words struck him as odd. Wait, what did I just call them? Spineless idiot? Babar? He blinked. No, Land of Light Universe. In the Space Garrison, a question blinked at Zeta on the same screen. The most resilient and unyielding Ultra Warrior? Zeta frowned. The Land of Light's Ultra Spirit emphasized bravery above all, sacrifice, no retreat, life and death be damned. By that measure, any veteran from the Space Garrison could qualify. Given the history, this review video is probably sarcastic, Leo muttered, thinking of Liu Bei's mischief. He'd spent only a short time with that kid, but Mabius, Liu Bei, had already called him an idol and then gleefully dug up his embarrassing moments. Not impossible, Ultraman, first generation, agreed. But the opposite of resilient and unyielding is weak-willed and afraid of death. That's not something we Ultramen are known for. Zoffi stared, trying to think of any famous Ultra with a weak personality. The nature of Ultraman was almost idealistic. The firmer the belief, the greater the eruption of power. He came up blank. Then the screen changed. A pre-roll notice appeared. Before the video is broadcast, viewers can participate in a no-prize quiz. You may choose your preferred candidate from the 5 Ultra Warriors below. They are Images Flashed, Ultraman 7, Ultraman Zafy, Ultraman First Generation, Ultraman Jack, Ultraman Mebius. Of the 5, Zafy, Ultraman First Generation, and Jack, 3 very similar-looking figures, were placed side by side in the middle. Typical Liu Bei. He'd arranged them deliberately and only showed their names for a second. How many viewers had actually caught them? "It's the 5 Ultra Brothers," someone cried in the plaza. Captain Zafy and Instructor Mebius are here too. And Ultraman, First Generation, 7, Jack. The new generation Ultras bubbled with excitement. Zero's eyes lit up. He'd been wondering if his father would appear, and now there he was. But to say who's the most unyielding, that's a tough call. Zeta looked troubled. Leo did too. Then Leo remembered something. Long ago, when Mebius was still on Earth, Leo had gone to train him. They'd exchanged moves, and Mebius had taken Leo's Leo kick, jumping up to meet it. No, Liu Bei was probably being sarcastic again. Still, these 5 really didn't show obvious weaknesses. Unyielding. Unyielding. After turning it over in his mind, Leo's annoyance flared again at the memory of the video that had featured him. The one where that little brat had stolen the Ultra Key. If Liu Bei wasn't being sarcastic, then Leo glanced at a certain reluctant security force captain and felt something like respect intrude into his irritation. Across other universes, the quiz had set off a different kind of debate. The Land of Light veterans recognized the 5 famous brothers, but viewers elsewhere did not. Before the video had even started, the comments were full of confusion. "I don't recognize any of them. How do I choose? The point's not the quiz, it's those 3 Ultras in the middle. I can't even describe it. They look exactly the same. Who's who? Do Ultraman have triplets? The other 2 are easier. One has a little light on his head and a mohawk. The other looks like a kitten? These 3 really look so similar." Hyperion's May squinted at the screen, unable to tell left from right. Kiana, however, beamed. "From left to right, it's Zafy, Ultraman, First Generation, and Jack." "How do you know?" Himeko asked, suspicious. "Because I'm smarter than you." Kiana struck a pose. Himeko and the others rolled their eyes. "Then tell us, what's your method for telling them apart?" Kiana hesitated, flustered, and finally admitted, "Okay, fine. I actually just happened to see the names at first." "Bronya knows," said a calm voice. Bronya, silent until now, guided heavy-armored Bunny 19C with measured precision. Zafy has star-like protrusions on his chest. Ultraman First Generation has the most solid muscular build. Jack's red knee pads are the thickest. "See, you're so smart." Kiana hugged Bronya from behind and nuzzled. "Kiana the idiot, don't get so close. Stupidity is contagious," Bronya muttered, but didn't push her away. Across the multiverse, viewers began to pick up the subtle differences and vote. The system announced that during the quiz, the highest votes from various worlds would be displayed on the big screen. Liu Bei watched with a small, curious smile. Who would the viewers choose? Comments scrolled up. "I choose Mebius because his name is the longest." "Jack, he looks like he can take on 2 opponents." 7, he's got a mohawk. He looks tough." "Zafy, I choose Zafy. He has pimples on his chest." Zafy read that last one and stared, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Pimples. Those are star emblems, he thought, outraged. "Be civilized," he told himself. "Don't call them names. You idiot." Votes came from every world and, strangely, began to converge. More and more people kept choosing Ultraman. The comments flooded in. "Ultraman First Generation. Ultraman First Generation. His chest muscles are the biggest. He totally looks like a tough guy." "I choose Ultraman First Generation. He's the one everyone wants." "Ultraman Generation, that big muscle-bound guy, looks so tough. I want to touch him so badly. Brother man, I love you." Ultraman First Generation blinked. What the heck? He stared at the screen, bewildered, as an unfamiliar heat of attention washed over him. Around him, the others watched the votes rise and laughed, puzzled or embarrassed in equal measure. 13. So it was you, kid. So it was you, kid. The warm-up was very successful. In the Annihilation dimension, Liu Bei scrolled through the torrent of comments and laughed out loud. How strange. They'd voted the toughest Ultra Warrior, and in the end, they'd all picked Brother Man? Just because he had big pecs? You guys really don't get it. Luckily, the system panel could be controlled by thought, so while Liu Bei prepared to start the second inventory, supplies from the Pacific Rim world flowed into this dimension. Compressed food, water, medicine, clothing, everything the camp desperately needed. Because his current abilities were limited, the system only transmitted a portion of the general's allotment, but for their small camp, it was enough. The supplies were routed to an abandoned underground warehouse, conveniently on the exploration team's path. Before transmigrating, Liu Bei had been a civil engineer, which was why he'd stayed behind to help build the camp rather than join the exploration team. As for shape-shifting into Leo and flying over to fetch the supplies himself, forget it. Even though their camp, and even the planet, sat in a remote corner of the universe, the influence of the great ruler of demise reached everywhere. He might not bother with a small camp of a few hundred people, but if someone transformed into an Ultraman and paraded about and was detected, even if Leo himself descended, it wouldn't help. No way worth the risk. Meanwhile, back on the Land of Light, Ultraman, first generation, was feeling a bit miffed. He was beloved across many worlds and by popular vote had been chosen as the toughest Ultraman in the warm-up poll. That should have been satisfying if the inventory hadn't been so mocking, but he couldn't stand the comments, each one more outrageous than the last. "Brother man, I like you." What kind of thing was that to say? What would an old comrade like him do with his dignity? Had humanity really come to this? "Don't worry, being liked is a good thing." Zafi patted his shoulder, trying to comfort him. In his heart he thought, yes, it must have been Ultraman, first generation, who got inventoried and escaped disaster. Jack, Seven, and Mebius chimed in on the sidelines. The four Ultra brothers were prematurely celebrating. They had, it seemed, forgotten that the vote had only been a no-prize guessing game. The final decision of who would be inventoried rested with Liu Bei. Minutes stretched on as audiences from countless worlds anxiously waited for the second inventory video. Then, half an hour later, a sound like a celestial fanfare rang out over the screen, a heavenly melody that thrilled everyone. Inventory Video 2, Unyielding, the toughest and most resilient Ultra Warrior. Based on the votes, the final result of the no-prize guessing game is Ultraman, first generation. Unfortunately, everyone guessed wrong. Wrong? That announcement sparked a fresh wave of curiosity. Viewers from other worlds, who didn't recognize the five candidates, remained relatively calm. The ones who went wild were the Ultramen of the Land of Light, especially the Ultra Brothers in the Space Garrison. Ultraman narration patted his broad chest and sighed in relief. "Hey, it's not me!" The others immediately went pale. Seven nervously touched his head fin. Jack patted Mebius's shoulder to steady himself, even as his own anxiety rose. Zafi was the worst off. Every nerve on edge, he felt like he'd been called on by a teacher in Ultra Elementary School. "Please, anything but me." Then Liu Bei's narration cut in, starting the second inventory video. A conspicuous line of text appeared, followed by a powerful, righteous shout that echoed across the Land of Light. "King of Ultra, why did you break the Ultra key?" The voice had been processed, just distorted enough to be strange, but the words landed like thunder. The Ultramen froze. So the Leo inventory and this one were a two-parter? They'd thought the breaking of the Ultra key was scandalous enough, but the first two words were even more outrageous. King of Ultra. From the father of Ultra down to boy in Ultra Elementary, everyone in the Land of Light knew one thing. Only one Ultra could be called King of Ultra. That title belonged to the old man King of Ultra himself. Most importantly, the King of Ultra was currently watching the broadcast at the Space Garrison. The old man King watched with an expression so calm it betrayed nothing, but the rest of the Ultramen were stunned. Wasn't this supposed to be a joke? Was Liu Bei not kidding this time? "Hiss, Master, who would dare address the King of Ultra like that?" Zeta whispered to Zero, his worldview wobbling. "How would I know?" Zero gasped back, adding to the heat in the Land of Light. Even Zero, who would at most call the old man, never would have dared speak like that. He'd thought himself bold. He never imagined there could be an Ultra bolder than him. Whose subordinate is this? As the Ultramen tried to work out who had the nerve to speak to the King of Ultra that way, viewers from other worlds were also shocked. Great King sounded like a weighty title. Surely no Ultraman actually had that name, right? The question on the screen was anything but weak. It was blunt, confrontational, and full of accusation. In the space garrison, Ultraman, first generation, 7, Jack and Ace huddled, trying to place the voice. Doesn't this voice sound familiar? Ultraman, first generation, asked. It's been processed, but I feel like I've heard that sentence before, Jack said. Have you forgotten? Leo and Astra walked over, wearing puzzled expressions. Back then, Babar disguised himself as Astra and used the Ultra Key to attack you brothers. King of Ultra showed up and destroyed the Ultra Key, or the consequences would have been terrible. Astra added, after the key broke, King of Ultra appeared, and at that moment, I remember. Ace clapped his hands. The Ultra brothers all recalled the scene. When the old man King of Ultra had suddenly appeared, one of the brothers had rushed over, and the words from that moment clicked into place. They all turned to look at the silent Zophy. There it was. The brothers' gazes fell on him. Zophy's face went pale. He remembered too. Then Liu Bei ended the suspense and revealed the inventory's target. Zophy, King of Ultra, why did you break the Ultra Key? It hit Zophy like an explosion. His head rang, more terrifying than facing Belial alone. Why him? Why that sentence? Zophy, my fist is rock hard. King of Ultra, why did you break the Ultra Key? When the footage played on the plaza's giant screen, it froze on the moment Zophy raised his fist toward the King of Ultra. Gasps swept through the crowd. Oh, that tone, that look, that clenched fist. Ultraman, what on earth? Is that Captain Zophy? It really is Captain Zophy. This is unreal. As expected of the Space Garrison captain, the eldest of the Ultra brothers, he's fearless. That's the King of Ultra. Captain Zophy actually dared to confront him. Hiss. For a beat, the whole land of light fell into a cold silence. So many Ultras stared at the screen, trembling. Zophy's words had been shocking. Who among them would dare address the King of Ultra that way? Even the revered father of Ultra behaved respectfully around the king. Zero, always impetuous, only ever called him old man at most. Zophy, who had always seemed imperturbable, was revealing a side of himself no one expected. You had to understand, in age, rank, and power, the King of Ultra was on a different plane than most Ultramen, a godlike figure. Yet here was Captain Zophy questioning him openly. It was audacity personified. Zophy. Father of Ultra squinted at the screen. He thought he heard Zophy's voice, but he couldn't quite accept it. Who would speak to the king like that? The shock passed quickly, and curiosity seized the crowd. Everyone noticed this clip was tied to the segment where Leo saved Astra. There had to be a connection. Viewers who had earlier complained about plot holes with a huff now nodded in approval. A good author fills their holes. Brother Zophy, so this is what you did on Earth, Taro murmured. Having just been publicly castigated himself, he felt oddly vindicated. He had only snapped and fought with Ace, how trivial compared to his eldest brother's boldness. When the King of Ultra had descended in the footage, Zophy initially approached him politely, seeking instructions, yet the exchange opened with a harsh question. The editing had amplified the drama to the fullest effect. Taro, part impressed kid, part spectator, watched the king and Zophy with renewed interest. The king sat unmoved atop the security force headquarters, silent. Zophy's face looked haunted, unreadable. Zophy caught Taro's gaze but refused to meet it. He simply wanted some time alone to brood. He didn't want to be put on display again when the clip rolled out. In the Absolution universe, the so-called Little Gold Man universe, the Ultraman inventory was playing out just as intensely. Belial, who'd been brought into that reality by the Little Gold Man, remained the white Belial variant because he'd never encountered Ryblood and taken on the black hunched form. He watched the footage and snorted with disbelief. Is that Zophy? That kid? White Belial laughed. Ha! What a joke! That silly Zophy actually did something like that! Ha! When Zophy had been exiled from the Land of Light in that timeline, he had been young and inexperienced, no match for Belial. Belial couldn't fathom that the same junior could be so bold as to confront the King of Ultra. Tregear, standing nearby, was equally intrigued. He remembered Zophy as the steady captain of the space garrison, the picture of calm leadership. He never imagined this other side. Thinking back to Taro's earlier restraint, Tregear found the whole affair amusing. The Ultra Warriors of the Land of Light are endlessly entertaining, he said dryly. Absolution Tartarus merely snorted. The timing of this inventory was perfect. For someone bent on occupying the Land of Light, it was a treasure trove of information. Old wounds, hidden weaknesses, rivalries. Leo the king of combat, Taro the chief instructor, Zoffy the captain. One revelation after another. It was as if fate were delivering them a map of the enemy's vulnerabilities. Across other realities, Daidi's universe, the Trigga worlds, even worlds where Ultramen never existed, the same shockwaves were felt. They had expected a spectacle of embarrassment, but instead, this clip displayed nothing but raw resolve. Many viewers didn't even know who Zoffy or the King of Ultra were by name, but the impression was clear. Zoffy stood his ground. He was someone to be relied upon when things got dangerous. Tough. Dependable. The footage resumed. The crowd leaned forward. The next scene showed 4 Ultras who had just appeared. Zoffy, the original Ultraman, Jack, and Ace. The 4 Ultra brothers stood in a line, tense and wary, as if bracing for an unseen threat. The camera slowly pulled back. Only then did the audience see Leo. He lay motionless on the ground, dust and debris clinging to him. He had taken a heavy blow. "Leo! It's Ultraman Leo. I haven't seen him in ages. I'm glad to see him." This must be before he and Astra restored the Ultra Key. But why is he down? Is he hurt? Why is he lying there in the dust? Questions tumbled through the viewers' minds. The unresolved mysteries from the first inventory clip flared back up. Why did Leo curse? Why was Astra frozen later? How did the Ultra Key break again? Why were the Ultra brothers present? With answers seemingly on the horizon, fists clenched in anticipation. Then the scene shifted, and the crowd flinched. Astra stood in frame, holding the Ultra Key. He pointed it at the Ultra brothers like a weapon, brandishing it as if it were a gun. The Ultra Key as a weapon? Could a device that guides the Ultra Star be used offensively? How terrifying would that be? Astra? Is that really Astra? Why would he? Isn't he one of the Ultra brothers and a member of the space garrison? Internal conflict among Ultramen? Is this all about brotherly pride? Every viewer began to form their own theory. Had Leo been felled by the Ultra brothers? Or had Astra turned on them and struck Leo down? That seemed unlikely, but then how to explain Astra's later imprisonment in alien ice? Maybe this incident led to that. And where was Babar in all of this? The viewers felt the threads were fraying. Something didn't add up, and the questions piled on. Across countless realities, the same unease grew. Everyone watched, waiting for the next cut to resolve the tangle of suspicion and betrayal the footage had spun. 15. The only person who dared to shake hands with the king. Astra had stolen the Ultra Key and was fighting the Ultra brothers who had come after him. In the middle of the struggle, Leo stepped in to protect Astra and was hit by the combined ray. He fell. At that moment, Liu Bei's voice cut through the chaos, and only then did the audience begin to understand why this had happened. But new questions immediately followed. Astra stole the Ultra Key. Why? The scene continued. Astra saw Leo collapse and cried out, "Brother Leo!" What shocked everyone was what came next. After Leo took the blast for him, Astra didn't help him up. He shoved him to the ground. This was nothing like the touching reunion people recalled from the earlier footage where Leo had rescued him. Moriboshi Dan, rushing forward, leaned on his cane and widened his eyes. "Leo!" Zoffy panicked too. Leo, pull yourself together," he called. The combined attack from the 3 Ultras had been fierce. Leo could not seem to rise. Astra raised the Ultra Key and aimed it at the Ultra brothers. Dan's voice trembled. "Astra, what are you going to do?" "Ultra brothers, in danger. The Ultra Key has enough power to shatter a planet." Tense music swelled as the narrator delivered a line that made everyone's scalp prickle. "What? Shatter a planet?" The viewers were stunned. This was supposed to be just a key. Could it really be a planet-destroying weapon? They had expected Astra to be subdued and frozen, maybe locked away. No one expected him to corner the Ultra brothers alone. The 4 Ultras on the field panicked, slowly retreating with raised hands, not daring to provoke him. Zoffy shifted his stance. His raised hand somehow resembled the starting pose for the M87 ray, though no one noticed the small detail at the time. Dan roared at the top of his lungs. "Stop, Astra! Don't do anything foolish." Astra smiled smugly. The Ultra Key in his hand flared with scorching light. He was about to fire it. Zoffy widened his arms, seemingly ready to answer with a full-power M87 ray. Dan's pleading had no effect. Astra laughed as the light from the key intensified. Dramatic close-ups captured the despair on the Ultra Brothers' faces. Then, boom, a single clap of thunder from the sky. A blinding white flash struck the Ultra Key. Lightning moved in an instant, sparks flying. Astra screamed as the Force snatched the key from his grasp. The Ultra Key flew out of his hand. Everyone froze. Before they could react, Moriboshi Dan did something impossible. His lame leg was suddenly sound. His back no longer ached. Leaning on his cane, he ran forward with quick, strong strides. It was a medical miracle of the moment. The Ultra Key hurtled toward him and landed a few meters away, plunging into the ground with a crash. Dan scrambled to it and examined it. The key was broken cleanly in two. At once he realized who had arrived and breathed incredulous, the King of Ultra. Liu Bei's narration explained the importance of the King of Ultra to the audience. Excitement erupted. The King of Ultra has appeared. To be able to destroy the Ultra Key, truly worthy of a king. Zoffi is here too. The conditions are met. Anticipation soared. On screen, the King of Ultra stood majestically. Everyone stared. Moriboshi Dan, the Ultra Brothers Astra, and except for Leo, who still lay unconscious on the ground, every eye was fixed on the elderly figure without a cape. Then Zoffi moved. Under everyone's gaze, he jogged toward the King of Ultra. "Your Majesty," he called, and then did something no one expected. He reached out and shook the king's hand. The king accepted without hesitation. Across the land of light, Ultras were stunned. Zoffi, the stoic captain of the space garrison, had just shaken hands with the king as if they were old friends. Even the father of Ultra, who had never once had the chance to shake the king's hand in all his years of service, was shocked. But Zoffi wasn't finished. No sooner had he lowered his hand than he raised his right fist and in a booming voice filled with reproach, demanded, "Why did you destroy the Ultra Key?" Courtesy before force. The question hit like a stone dropping into still water. Ripples shot through the entire land of light. Young warriors were speechless. They had expected Zoffi's question to be whispered, private, or a simple misunderstanding. Never this. A public handshake followed by a direct, accusatory demand to the King of Ultra, with Zoffi's fist raised at the old man. Bold, shocking, utterly unyielding. Note, Zoffi's gesture here resembles the starting pose for the M87 ray, a small filming quirk noted in episode 39 of Leo TV where he appears to nod slightly. Combined with later memes, the moment becomes even more striking. What? Astra is a fake. The room erupted. Captain Zoffi is too strong. As expected of the Space Garrison captain, he actually dared to point that out to the King of Ultra. I get it now. This is the true Ultra spirit. No matter who you face, don't be servile or arrogant. Exactly. I want to learn from Captain Zoffi. Zero, why won't you take me as your disciple? In the Space Garrison, Zeta was pumped, pounding his fist and leaning toward Zero. Answer me. Why won't you take me as your disciple? Zero blinked. You brat, did you take the wrong medicine? Zeta, grinning and foolish, leaned closer to speak again, just as smack. A sharp slap rang out. The Ultra slap. Zero shoved the overeager Zeta back, scowling. You idiot, is that all you learned? Normally that would shut Zeta up, but the fool leaned in again, indignation written all over his face. Why did you hit me? Zero didn't answer. Smack, and landed another slap, this time right on top of Zeta's head. Why did you hit me? Zeta cried. Smack! Why? Smack! Smack! Zeta was bewildered. I didn't even say anything, and you still hit me, he accused, looking wronged at his ace brother. Ace had watched the whole spectacle and sighed. Then, ignoring Zeta's protest, Ace gave Zero a meaningful look. Nephew of mine, go ahead and beat him. This kid's useless at everything, except having thick skin. Zero nodded, as if he understood perfectly. He raised a fist the size of a sandbag, clenched so hard it seemed to crack. Still tough? No, I won't imitate Captain Zoffi anymore. Good, that's better. Zero snorted lightly. Seeing the scolding didn't mean Zero was really angry. Zeta shamelessly leaned in again. Hey, Master Zero! Smack! Ah! This little scene wasn't unique on the Land of Light. Across a public plaza, many younger Ultras were joking and laughing. I've wanted to say this for a long time. Why are the Space Garrison instructors so strict? Right, Instructor Taro, why are you so strict? Instructor Mebius, never mind. Mebius is really gentle. The video rolled on. After Zoffy's famous remark, the King of Ultra ignored tone and theatrics and spoke bluntly. "Are keys really that important?" he asked. "Your foolishness almost killed Leo. He could have been the seventh Ultra brother." He pointed at Astra, who looked terrified. "Is this person you see with your own eyes really Astra?" Astra adopted a fighting stance, face inexplicably flustered. Moroboshi Dan, hidden behind the Ultra key, watched Astra with a puzzled expression. Even he couldn't make sense of it. If his own brother didn't recognize him, how could anyone else? The king didn't waste any more words. He opened his hands wide, and the two rubies on his chest pulsed, sending twin red ripples straight at Astra, the baptism ray and anti-illusion beam. "Ah!" Astra screamed as the baptism ray struck him. Enveloped in red light, he convulsed and then, with a desperate flurry, shifted into another form. The crowd gasped. The Astra before them was a fake, a Babelian in disguise. Many viewers' jaws dropped. Those who had seen Leo's compilation recognized the imposter immediately. This was the Babelian who Leo had once ripped apart. The Babelian's illusion had been so sophisticated that even Leo and the Ultra Brothers had been fooled. The real Astra, meanwhile, had been attacked and sealed in the ice of a distant planet. So that was it. Across the land of light and beyond, anger flared. No wonder Leo was so furious. Babar actually attacked Astra and impersonated him. That bastard! He's done horrible things. Astra is all Leo has left of his family. What if the plot had succeeded? Thank goodness the King of Ultra intervened. "King, you are a god to us." Even far-off observers were moved. In the Marvel Universe, Loki watched the revelation and felt a strange stirring. If something like this happened to him, Thor would rush to save him without hesitation. As the god of mischief, Loki often pulled tricks of his own. Seeing the Babelian's betrayal, he felt an odd pang of self-reproach. On screen, with the Babelian unmasked, the Ultra Brothers surged forward. The imposter fled and was female in this telling, a grandmotherly Babelian with a deceptively graceful appearance, said to be the ancestor of the magma alien line. "Stop her," someone shouted, but the deep voice of the King of Ultra stopped them. "We can deal with the Babelian later. Right now we are racing against time." He pointed to the Ultrastar, a moon-like body accelerating toward Earth. "Our home, the Ultrastar, is on a collision course with Earth. If it strikes, both will be torn into cosmic dust." Moroboshi Dan sighed. If only this Ultra Key could still be used. Compilation Video 2, Unyielding and Resilient, the Toughest Ultra Warrior. Playback ended. The rest was already known from Leo's compiled footage. Leo rescued Astra, they restored the Ultra Key, defeated the Babelian, and prevented the Ultrastar from colliding with Earth. Viewers didn't berate anyone for not updating the file, but a larger question simmered in their minds. If the Ultra Key was the device used to control the Ultrastar, and the King of Ultra was so powerful, why had he destroyed such an important key? Why not just stop the Babelian outright? Why let her escape? Had he left her alive as a trial for Leo? Why wait until the two planets almost collided before restoring the key? And why could a single key be turned into a planet-destroying weapon in the first place? Countless fans were baffled, and in that confusion, they felt a little sympathy for Zoffy. Anyone would have run up to the king at that moment and shouted, "King, why did you break the Ultra Key?" Note, although Zeta was taken in and raised by Ace from a young age, the term brother on the Land of Light is a respectful title and doesn't strictly indicate seniority. Theoretically, Ace is Zeta's adoptive father, though within Ultra culture, brother can mean senior as well. As for Zeta's thick skin, anyone curious can watch Ultraman Galaxy Fight 2 to see why. 17. Zoffy Easter Egg, Episode 1. It's good to be young. Zoffy watched the young Ultra Warriors in the plaza, their excitement infectious. He had been mortified a moment ago, but now a flood of relief washed over him. After all, he was the captain of the space garrison, one of the highest figures in the Land of Light. He needed to be magnanimous. Let a bunch of kids laugh. What was the harm? Besides, this so-called dark moment wasn't even that dark. Who else would dare joke with the King of Ultra like that? Only I, Zoffy, would. When others heard about this later, they'd probably speak to him even more politely. "I used to laugh and chat with the King of Ultra. Can anyone else do that?" he thought, chest filling with a peculiar pride. Then, unexpectedly, huge letters filled the big screen. Zoffy Easter Egg, Chapter 1 is about to play. The crowd cheered again, hungry for more. Zoffy relaxed further. He remembered the pattern from the review videos. After Leo's segment came a spike of Ultra Spirit, and then Taro's dark moment. If this followed that pattern, the Zoffy Easter egg would be about Taro, not him. Still, curiosity nibbled at him. Who else in the Land of Light could possibly be as bold as he had been? A narrator's voice boomed across the Land of Light nonetheless. Zoffy Easter egg. Zoffy, you've made it big. Zoffy blinked. That wasn't right. Who was trying to frame him? The sentence sounded like praise, yet given what he'd seen so far in the review clips, something about it felt ominous. Across multiple worlds, viewers leaned forward. Leo's Easter egg had been Taro. Why would Zoffy's Easter egg be about Zoffy himself? This captain seemed to have more than one embarrassing story to his name. In the Land of Light, no one doubted the title. Zoffy had truly made it big. As the eldest of the Ultra Brothers and captain of the Space Garrison, his rank was second only to Father of Ultra, and his power was evident, arguably the greatest among the Ultra Brothers. Could a figure like him have a weak side? Many found that hard to believe. Then the text on the screen changed again. Zoffy, you've made it big. The reaction was instant and shocked. It was Belial. Every playful mood vanished. Father of Ultra and Zero reacted the strongest, understandably. One of them had once been Belial's closest companion before his fall, and the other was his sworn enemy. For the rest of the warriors, Belial was a name that sent shivers down their spines. He was one of the Land of Light's greatest foes, a villain who had nearly destroyed their home 3 times. The first time, he had allied with Ryblood and led a monster army in an invasion that only King of Ultra's intervention and imprisonment stopped. The second time, he had been freed from the space prison by Zarabian, routed Taro's team, then wielding the Giga Battlenizer, fought straight from Ultra Horai East Road to the Plasma Spark Tower, stealing the spark and freezing the Land of Light until a specially trained Zero returned to stop him. The third time, having transformed into Emperor Kaiser, he nearly annihilated another universe as well, sending tens of thousands of Darklops Zero against the Land of Light. King of Ultra himself had to intervene. Belial's crimes were unprecedented. How could Zoffy be connected to a name like that? The Ultra Warriors exchanged confused glances. In other universes, the audience didn't always know who Belial was, but the name sounded dangerous. In the Tiga universe, Shinjo and Hori laughed and joked as usual. Reina smiled at their antics. Daigo, however, grew serious. Hearing the name Belial produced a sudden, inexplicable sense of dread, an instinct Ultra Warriors sometimes felt without understanding why. Captain Iruma caught him studying the screen and watched him with growing curiosity. This boy had been acting oddly ever since the review videos had started. Was he hiding something? On the screen, the footage began. A desolate planet, Planet Golgotha. Zoffy, Ultraman, Seven, Jack, Ace, and Taro, the Ultra Six, were kneeling, exhausted, panting, one knee on the ground. On Planet Golgotha, the Ultra Brothers combined into Super Taro and used the Cosmic Miracle Ray to defeat the Cosmic Demon Zuda Brothers, but the effort left them drained and nearly unable to stand. Countless viewers gasped at the Zuda Brothers' close-up. A caption warned they were cosmic demons, titans that threatened the multiverse. That the Ultra Six had defeated such foes impressed audiences everywhere. The dark history was funny, but these were undeniably mighty warriors. Then something else happened on the screen. A golden portal opened before the Six. 2 figures stepped through, Belial and Tregir. Viewers unfamiliar with them could only guess by their sinister appearance and cackling laughter. What did they want? What threat had just arrived at Planet Golgotha? Belial? Tregir? Zoffy and Taro both cried out in disbelief when the newcomers appeared. How could this be? Belial and Tregir should have been dead by now. Why were they here, looking exactly as they had before their blackening? The Ultra Six were stunned. You've aged, Herald of Light, Ultraman Taro, Tregir sneered, his eyes fixed on Taro. There was a trace of something like feeling behind the taunt, but little real malice in his tone. Belial glanced at Taro too, noting how much the kid resembled Ken, the father of Ultra, right down to the small, youthful horns. The resemblance irked him, but he didn't linger. He turned his mocking attention to Zoffy and with a single finger traced a circle on the other's chest. Zoffy, you've really made something of yourself, he said, the sarcasm sharp. You even have a star emblem on your chest now. The air tensed. Viewers everywhere felt it. So that's why Zoffy had made it big. This was where it began. The Ultra Brothers were exhausted after the fight, and running into these two old foxes taking advantage of the situation was horrible timing. How could this be? The Ultra Brothers must be in trouble now, commentators cried. Hard to say. These two aren't people to mess with. They've already spent so much energy, they can barely stand. No, Zoffy's here. He's the one who once stood up to the Ultra King. With him around, nothing will happen. Across the spectrum, people hoped for a turnaround. The video resumed. Triggear, how did you revert to your old self? Taro demanded. Zoffy, thinking fast, made a connection. They must be like the Gua brothers from before, counterparts from a parallel universe who traveled in time from some point in the past, not the Belial and Triggear we know. Belial and Triggear had no interest in explanations. Their bodies flared gold, and they laughed. Let us enjoy this, they said, and charged. The six brothers, barely able to stand, had no time to mount a proper defense. Zoffy's expected heroics didn't materialize. The six were beaten decisively. The power of the absolution, it's incredible, Belial laughed, casually flinging seven behind him. Seems Tartarus kept his promise. Triggear, satisfied, unleashed the powerful new strength he'd gained. Empowered by the absolution, Belial and Triggear were unstoppable against the drained six. They struck like tigers in a flock of sheep. No one among the six could block them. Over and over they were driven back. Zoffy took the brunt of it. Belial targeted him relentlessly. When the six were finally knocked down, Belial and Triggear assumed their starting positions. Red and blue lightning crackled with terrifying pressure. Deathseum ray, Trella ray. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions rocked the battlefield as the six brothers were consumed by a sea of fire. At that moment, the video froze. Viewers who had been glued to the screen widened their eyes in frustration and fear. They had cut the footage at the worst possible moment. Were the Ultra Six dead? Who were these two treacherous old foxes, Belial and Triggear? Tell us something. The chat exploded. It stopped? That's it? Who's showing this? Are you kidding me? Update the video. I'm freaking out. The Ultra Brothers didn't die, did they? Who is Tartarus? Somebody explain. Why did all of Triggear's beams hit Taro? Did those two have some grudge? I need to know. Meanwhile, on the Land of Light, a group of junior Ultras in the plaza watched, stunned. They hadn't realized such a major battle had happened not long ago. Belial and Triggear before their blackening, the Gua brothers, the Ultra Six, these were legendary figures. None of them expected the unflappable Captain Zoffy to be mocked like that. Sigh, Zoffy murmured in the space garrison. He hadn't expected to be ambushed by those two old foxes either. His proud star emblem had become Belial's joke. Then someone shouted, "The video's playing again. Here it comes. Here it comes. Play it." The footage resumed. Viewers leaned forward as the scene shifted. They had moved to the Land of Light. The Land of Light, also known as Ultra Star, is 60 times the size of Earth, with gravity 1.2 times Earth's. The average height of Land of Light residents reaches 40 meters, with an average mass of 40,000 tons. They wield many unique ray abilities, hence they are called Ultraman. All of this originates from the Land of Light's plasma spark tower. It's the Land of Light, so glittering and dreamlike, someone breathed. 40 meters tall on average, over 40,000 tons? This is way stronger than the giants in our world. The plasma spark tower holds an incredibly powerful energy. Worlds across the spectrum were awed by the true face of the Land of Light. The Ultras from the Land of Light, however, were focused on one detail. White Belial. Look, he's at the plasma spark tower. What's he doing there? Sharp-eyed veterans recognized the scene. On screen, Belial muttered, "If I possess this power, I can surpass Ken." He reached for the plasma spark tower. Black smoke curled from his hand. He screamed in agonized pain and fled in a panic. Suddenly, "Belial, stop right there." An agile figure sprang out and grabbed Belial. It was Zoffy. "Captain Zoffy," the younger Ultras cried. "Wait, how long ago is this? Zoffy doesn't even have a star emblem yet," one of the Ultra schoolchildren said in disbelief. "This must be before I was born. Back when Belial ran rampant, I was still in elementary school." Whether they knew Zoffy and Belial personally, or were viewers from elsewhere. Everyone understood. The grudge between them started here. So had the proud Captain Zoffi subdued Belial back then? Was that why the Belial of a parallel future held such contempt for him, taunting him with that line, "Zoffi, you've really made something of yourself"? With those questions in their minds, countless viewers sat on the edge of their seats as the screen continued, eager to see what would happen next. 19. Belial, Zoffi's nightmare? Let go of me. Belial roared, and with a flick of his hand, actually spun Zoffi, who had both hands on him, around. Zoffi rolled, regained his footing, and dodged the follow-up strike. He didn't attack the injured, raging Belial outright. He kept blocking, looking for the right moment to subdue him. But one brutal punch from Belial struck Zoffi in the abdomen and sent him flying. Other Ultras swarmed forward, only to be knocked aside in a few ruthless moves. Seeing that, Zoffi knew he had no choice but to go all out. Belial showed no mercy. After repelling Zoffi, he blasted him with a terrifying beam attack and sent him hurtling away. The short scene on the screen was nothing like what viewers had expected. Instead of Zoffi dominating, he was completely overwhelmed. Zoffi said nothing. His feelings were tangled. He had joined the space garrison not long ago and had risen quickly. To be accepted so young meant his talent and strength were exceptional. Yet he had not anticipated that, even against an injured, disoriented Belial, he would be outmatched. If Father of Ultra hadn't intervened, things might have gone disastrously. Belial had always looked at him with condescending contempt. Zoffi had known that for a long time, but he had never resented it. He had simply trained quietly, worked harder. Who could have guessed? The scene shifted again, and the room went colder. This next clip dredged up a nightmare none of the Ultras on the Land of Light liked to remember, the Ultra Galaxy Legends era. Black Belial unleashed havoc across their home. When the footage appeared, many young Ultras who had lived through that battle felt their chests tighten as the old terror crept back in. Belial had already smashed through the defense line, led by Mebius, Hikari, and others, and now faced Zoffi, Ultraman, and Seven in a brutal fight high on a vertical skyscraper. In the blink of an eye, Ultraman and Seven were blasted off the building by the Giga Battlenizer and fell to the ground, incapacitated. Zoffi found himself behind Belial. There was a clean opportunity to strike from behind, yet he did the unexpected. He leapt over Belial, placed himself between the enemy and his two fallen juniors, and engaged Belial directly. "What is Zoffi doing?" the viewers shouted. "Why pass up that chance?" The Giga Battlenizer was terrifying. At that close range, it could devastate even the strongest Ultra. Lubei's narration cut through the murmurs. Zoffi could have fired his ultimate beam at Belial right then. At that distance, even Belial might not have been able to react. But he didn't. He flew in front of Belial and faced this fearsome enemy alone, because he chose to protect his two injured younger brothers. Once it was pointed out, the audience understood. If Zoffi had fired and Belial had ignored him to chase down Ultraman and Seven, or if the beam had been dodged and hit his juniors, the consequences would have been unimaginable. The crowd was moved by the selflessness of the elder brother and wished for his triumph. Reality was cruel. Zoffi, with all his courage, endured blow after blow from Black Belial, equipped with the Giga Battlenizer. Even the M87 ray, a planet-shattering attack, could not penetrate the Battlenizer. The Giga Battlenizer is unreal. No wonder Ultras lose their combat ability from it, viewers said. It can even stop Captain Zoffi's M87 ray. In the clip, Belial kept pressing forward. He stomped on Zoffi's abdomen, then slammed him so hard he fell from a great height and cracked the ground beneath him. Zoffi tried to raise a hand, but his red light flickered. He collapsed, unconscious from grievous wounds. Belial looked down at him with mockery, even stepped on him once more, and then, disdainfully, left. The scene cut. Silence filled the viewing halls. Even those who had enjoyed light-hearted jabs at Zoffi felt bitter watching the calm, steadfast elder brother humiliated and defeated. He had lost 3 fights to Belial in a row, each defeat glaringly one-sided. People whispered that Belial shouldn't be so arrogant. Others taunted that only because someone was dead did others dare boast. Back in the space garrison, the mood was heavier still. The Ultras had assumed the compilation video would stay playful, but instead it had sprung several hard-hitting scenes, especially those involving Zoffi. Everyone could imagine the sting he felt. No one spoke. Even Zeta, usually chatty, stayed silent. Zoffy stood at the far end of the room, watching the screen alone. He wasn't ashamed of losing. Everyone had limits. But now that his defeats had been put front and center, he had to reckon with them. Was Belial truly so far beyond him that defeat was inevitable? White Belial or Black Belial, the gap seemed vast. He thought and thought, but found no easy consolation. Fine. Let it stand as a cautionary tale for the younger ultras in the plaza. Train harder or face the consequences. Leo, watching, felt a flicker of irritation toward Liu Bei. Sure, it was fine to show embarrassing moments for laughs, but why go this far? In the hush, Liu Bei's voice came through again. Have you noticed that every time Zoffy met Belial, it wasn't a fair fight? He said. The first time, Zoffy was still a green warrior, facing a Belial who could stand toe-to-toe with Father of Ultra. He knew he was outmatched and still stepped forward. The second time, Belial, possessed by Ryblood, used the Giga Battlenizer. Even Father of Ultra and the strongest warriors were hard-pressed. The third time, Zoffy had just been disintegrated and was out of energy when Belial, strengthened by an absolution, ambushed him. Liu Bei's words rescued a sliver of his reputation. Zoffy smiled bitterly and shook his head. A loss was a loss, and he could bear it. If he couldn't admit that kind of humility, how could he be the eldest of the Ultra Brothers and the captain of the space garrison? Just then, another video title flashed across the screen. Zoffy froze. Zoffy, Belial, I'm going to show you what I'm capable of today. White, Belial. All Ultras of the Land of Light, countless viewers. Belial, I'll show you what I'm made of today. The words echoed through the Land of Light and set it ablaze. Even though the ashes of one incarnation of Belial had been scattered across time, for many Ultra Warriors, he remained an indelible nightmare. No one expected this. Captain Zoffy actually had an opportunity to show what he could do in front of Belial. A long, silent chorus of Ultra Warriors erupted with excitement. Everyone wanted to see how Zoffy would face Belial. Zoffy himself stared at the screen, stunned. Did this mean he really had a chance to prove himself to Belial? Some future incident? The shock in his chest matched the others. Anger simmered as well. Belial had sneered at his star emblem when he attacked. That emblem, Zoffy thought, belonged only to him and Hikari. If he hadn't been drained at the time, he would have ripped Belial's helmet off then and there. Now, to learn he might finally be able to teach Belial a lesson filled him with renewed vigor. He watched the footage with hungry anticipation. Across countless other universes, viewers felt the same electric thrill. After so long under pressure, they were finally witnessing an inspiring declaration. Captain Zoffy, show them what you can do. In the Little Gold Man universe, Kingdom, Belial, who had been laughing moments before, went pale, dumbfounded. What? Zoffy, the one beaten 3 times by his past, present, and future selves, actually showed his capabilities in front of him? How could that be? Intelligence reports even said Belial's blackened ashes had been scattered, supposedly by a certain good son himself. If the inventory video spoke truly, the Belial Zoffy faced in the recording was his current self. It was an impossible joke. White Belial clenched his fists in shame and fury. He could not be bested by Zoffy. His true opponents should be Zero or Ken, not the old captain. On top of his original strength, he had absorbed power from the Absolution clan. He was no weaker than the blackened Belial, who had once wrought havoc on the Land of Light. The thought of being upstaged by Zoffy enraged him. This old Belial will see how you compare, he snarled at the screen. The scene rolled. A blizzard-blasted world filled the frame. 2 lines of warriors faced off across the white expanse. Taro peered at the image and blurted, "That's Planet Blizzard. Why are they here?" Alongside the Ultra Brothers were Zero, Lebut, and a tall, unfamiliar Ultraman. Leo squinted. "Regulos, how is he here?" Other Ultras murmured in confusion. Opposite them stood a phalanx of golden giants. "Who's that leader, Tartarus?" He was the one who ambushed Zero and fought Jonius in U40. 7 recognized him, and the rest reacted in unison. The golden giants were the kingdom from another universe. In the Tiga universe, the revelation stunned even more people. There are so many giants of light. Leo, Taro, and Zoffy, all of them are here. White Belial is here. Shinjo, Hori, and Reina called out. Captain Aruma was speechless. Most shocked of all was Daigo, Tiga's human host. He could only stare and mutter, "So many Ultra Warriors, and those golden giants. Who are they?" Audiences in other worlds were equally shaken. They had already admired the Ultras of the Land of Light, and now another kingdom, just as mighty, had appeared. "That's Zoffy. He's got a small army with him." "Belial's on the other side. So many golden giants. There's even a minotaur," someone gasped. Zoffy raised his fist and intoned, "Everyone, fight for survival." Tartarus sneered, "Just as I wished." The defenders of the Land of Light and the Absolution clan of the kingdom, the Guardians and the Invaders, clashed. The final battle officially began. The camera dove into the fray, cutting through battle after battle ring until it fixed on two figures at the heart of the fight, Zoffy and Belial. The audience leaned in. Zoffy had been humiliated in the past by Belial. Many fans harbored disappointment in him. Now the inventory claimed Zoffy had truly shown his mettle. Who could sit still for that? Back in the Little Gold Man universe, Belial watched the two with jaw-tightening fury. He could not afford to lose. Then something on the screen caught his eye. A sword in his own hand, its pommel topped with a black head. Belial frowned. The face on the sword looked oddly familiar, strangely handsome even. He forced the thought away and lunged. Belial struck first. His Bebe sword flared with a purplish-red light as he slashed at Zoffy. Zoffy, unarmed, moved with astonishing skill, sidestepping, seizing Belial's sword arm to control its swing, and answering with a brutal hook to Belial's face. Belial raised his arm to block. Zoffy switched to an elbow strike that ripped Belial's arm aside. No pause. Zoffy followed with a kick, which Belial parried with his right hand, and the sword arced again for Zoffy's head. Zoffy anticipated it, ducked, and slammed into Belial's abdomen. Sparks flew. The blow landed square on old Belial's kidney, an ultra palm chop. Zoffy attacked without restraint. There was no fondness between them, only old grudge and fierce intent. Belial roared in pain and retaliated, his sword hand crashing into Zoffy's right shoulder. The pair spun apart to create distance. "Captain Zoffy's fighting well," cheered countless viewers. "That elbow, that looked like it hurt." "Captain Zoffy is mighty." The choreography made the point clear. Both had taken hits, but the severity differed. Belial had been struck in a vital spot. Zoffy had only suffered a hasty counter to the shoulder. Who was more skilled was obvious. A surge of pride swept across Zoffy's supporters. They regrouped and picked new tactics. Fueled by fury, Belial raised his Bebe sword and struck. Zoffy, however, calmly lifted his hand and gave a French-style military salute. Ultras across the Land of Light muttered in confusion. "Captain Zoffy, what is he doing?" Some context. White Belial had been strengthened twice by the Little Gold Man, and on paper was supposed to be on par with Black Belial, equipped with the Bebe sword. Yet in practice he often seemed awkward with the blade. Whether from contempt for Lord Saflin or poor technique, he had been shown up before, by the Lord in the decisive Snowy Mountain battle, and again by Big V during the Yulian rescue. By contrast, Zoffy's strength was legendary. Later accounts, even an official stage play folded into mainstream history, would record Zoffy defeating a fused boss of Dark Emperor, Trigier, and the remnant soul of an ancient evil, unleashing his full power M87 ray. The salute hung in the frozen air, a small, composed gesture amid the storm of combat, an unmistakable sign that Zoffy was not only fighting, but fighting on his terms.